the reality of the task at hand when you listen to Dan Campbell post-season last year.
Oh, that's today. Yep.
You heard it there. It's going to be hard. And it's the work, it's the motivation. What did we hear from Penei Sewell? The amount of times that he has watched that game. There were 4 teams playing. They were up 17 points, and they still came up short. Yeah, rip that Band-Aid off. Let's go out there and find a way to motivate ourselves, find a way to work, use all of that as motivation to be better this year, to put the work in and know that you are going to have a huge target on your back, that you are now the hunted because you were one of 4 teams that were still playing. You weren't one of 2. You didn't get there, but you were one of 4, and that is what everybody else, 28 other teams, are aspiring to get there.
Ticket texters pointing out that they have already bet on this team to win the Super Bowl. They have already booked reservations, Airbnbs in New Orleans for the Super Bowl. That's Gonzo in Brighton. We have more people saying they purchased that furniture. They expect it to be free at the end of the season. So people are making life decisions around the Detroit Lions winning the Super Bowl. And I don't believe these people were drunk at 9:13 on a whatever day of the week it is. Wednesday morning.
Wednesday, yeah.
I don't think so. Hump day, yeah. Sorry, the days get kind of, whatever. We get up early, days get blurred. I think these people have every right to believe it. And we've asked you guys for your thoughts, 248-539-9797, whether you think this team takes the step up, step back. How are you emotionally preparing for uncharted territory, the Detroit Lions in the Super Bowl conversation? We will get to Tarik Skubal, the report, the quotes, the odds, and a trade. Potential trade. Would you say yes to this deal proposed? We'll get to that at 9:35. It's 97.1.
Hey, the summer driving season is upon us once again, and the combination of increased traffic, big trucks, motorcyclists, and something that we all have to deal with right now, construction. It all contributes to the fact that summertime in Michigan has more accidents than any other season of the year. If you've been injured in an accident, injury attorney David Femininio and his team are ready to help you right now. And here's a great point. David will never take a fee until he wins your case. You can speak to David personally right now by calling 855-65-CRASH, or you can go to his website, getdavidgetpaid.com. That number again, 855-65-CRASH, or on the web at getdavidgetpaid.com.
Love the message from Dan Campbell today at the podium. The lectern, as I'm being told I should call it on Ticket Text.
Oh, words matter.
Words matter.
It's a podium.
It's a podium. He called it a podium, and it's a large podium, so he doesn't knock it over. Anyway, we're talking.
And it looks like a large podium, even in front of Dan Campbell.
Even in front of him.
Yeah.
It's like a phone booth. I don't know how to describe it.
Can't wait to see Ben Johnson behind it or Dave Phipp. Not big individuals. They're going to look tiny.
How many Amon-Ra St. Browns do you think could fit there, Heather?
Oh, at least 3.
Yeah, stacked on top of each other.
I was going to say, are they like sitting on the shoulders, or are they standing side by side?
Yeah, they're going to play chicken.
Because a couple side by side. It's a wide podium.
It is wide.
It is a little
It's got
silly.
room.
It gives you the message.
It's a roomy podium that Dan Campbell's standing behind. We've got a Tarik Skubal trade proposal to get to at 9:35. I want to introduce a vocabulary word to describe this Tigers season before the show ends. We have ticket texts. We got phone calls. Lions are the topic of conversation. Your expectations for this football team. We also told you history is not on their side. Do you say, who cares? All in? Do you expect that step forward or that step back? Let's go to Michael in West Bloomfield. Michael, you're on 97.1.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Nothing gets me more excited than talking Lions. So let's go back to last year. They far exceeded all of our expectations. Yes, they won the division, and we thought they'd get a playoff win. Well, they went far beyond that. So now let's go to this year. They've made additions to the team, both on the offense and the defensive side. And Jameson Williams is going to be your guy on the offensive side of the ball that's going to have a breakout year. You're going to see some sparks in that offense that we haven't seen here in a long time, and I'm sure Ben Johnson is just like chomping at the bit. I can't wait to see him unleash Jameson Williams because you can't tackle what you can't catch. Now, the defensive side, on the defensive side with the additions of Reeder and Davenport and all the other, and Brian Branch coming back, and Kirby Joseph's going to have a better year. Watch out for Jack Campbell. And Jack Campbell is going to be the wild card. He is going to be roaming free because all these guys are going to have all their assignments buttoned down. And everybody that Campbell and Holmes have brought in are the guys that they want. These are fabric guys. They have woven the fabric tighter. And I fully expect the Lions to be in the Super Bowl in February, sitting on my couch with lots of food and lots of drink and a few buddies over, and we're going to have some fun this year. And it's going to be, and they're going to earn it this year because, schedule's tougher, but hey, that's the price of success, and let's go Lions.
Michael, I love it. The schedule's tougher, but the Lions are tougher too. You talk about how can they be better. It's why we talk about breakout guys. He says Jack Campbell. He says J-Mo. I think those are two great ones. I threw Aleem McNeil in there. I think there's another gear for him with Reeder alongside him in that defensive line room. There's another gear for this football team, which is scary for everybody else and exciting for us. Let's get to Antoine in Detroit. Antoine, you're on 97.1.
What up? What up? Hey, fellas, he kind of stole my thunder, but Jack Campbell is going to be like that, fellas. I'm telling y'all right now. We've seen it at Iowa. We've seen it in the Big Ten. And getting DJ Reeder and Aleem McNeil's steady progression and those guys eating up those blocks, I'm telling you, it's going to make a world of difference. People don't realize DJ Reeder's been a dog for a while. Mm-hmm. He's kind of underrated guy, but he is a veteran. He's going to come and bring some solidify the inside of our defensive line. And I do think those two in the inside is going to make it easier for whoever that other guy is, whether it's James Houston, whether it's Davenport, or whoever else is going to have to bring that pressure on the edge. In the middle, we are going to be so solid with the safeties we have, and then Jack Campbell making a progression with Reeder and Aleem McNeil. I'm super excited. I think Jack Campbell's more the breakout person than Jameson because you only got so many balls that can go around. Sure. You know they're going to run the football. You know Laporta going to get looks. You know Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to get looks. So Jameson Williams is that guy that he hits that big play in the big moment, and I can see a lot of that happening. But on a steady dosage, week to week, I think we're going to see Jack Campbell getting 10 tackles, 11 tackles, making interceptions, making plays. I think he's going to be a top 5 middle linebacker in the NFL. I really do.
Antoine, I'm with you. I think he is poised to have that breakout season that you're talking about, and for a lot of the same reasons in regards to Aleem McNeil, DJ Reeder, Aiden Hutchinson, whether it's Davenport, Houston, insert Pascal, I don't care.
Yes.
I think it's going to open things up for him, but I think there's going to be a lot of different ways that they're going to be able to utilize him because Derek Barnes played better at the end of last year. Alex Anzalone is solid. They can use those guys in traditional linebacker roles, but the athletic ability of Jack Campbell is going to open things up to use him in very creative and dynamic ways.
And to me, I mean, they were already great stopping the run, and Reeder will solidify that they remain one of the elite run-stopping teams. What it excites me about is that the quickest path to the quarterback is right up the middle. And if that means Aleem McNeil is a 3-tech, he's lining up one-on-one over a guard on critical snaps, that's what all of a sudden, hey, I appreciate the work they've done in the secondary, overhauling that room, and I think those players will get better, especially late in the year. But right out of the gate, if Aleem McNeil's a game wrecker, everybody else is going to benefit because the quickest path is through him.
Well, and what you're trying to do is create as many beneficial matchups as you can. You just mentioned Aleem McNeil one-on-one with a guard. I like that matchup. DJ Reeder one-on-one with a center. I like that matchup. Aiden Hutchinson one-on-one with the tackle. If you can find ways to get him singled up because maybe on a certain protection they've got to double Aleem McNeil, and that's where it becomes important to have somebody that can win on the other side in a one-on-one situation. You only got 5 offensive linemen. If you double up more than one player, now that means a tight end is in protection, a running back is in protection, a wide receiver is in protection. Mm-hmm. You've got to find more ways to get people in the box to help defend and double up players. But if you aren't, then if it's Hutch that gets doubled, Hutch, find a way to beat a double team. That's what good pass rushers do. And then Aleem McNeil, DJ Reeder, and whoever else is over there, find a way to win your one-on-one matchup.
Let's get to Corin, who sounds a lot like Brad Holmes. Corin, you're on 97.1. That's all I remember. Every time I see your name, I think Brad Holmes is calling in.
Well, listen, I think one of the key storylines that we're missing is Jared Goff going to be able to take that elite step?
I don't know. You paid him. Come on.
That's my point is we paid him, right? So can he can he get, instead of, 30, 32 touchdowns, can we knock that up to 45, 50 touchdowns? Not 4,400 yards, but 49 to 5,100 yards, right? Can he take that Drew Brees step? Can he take that Peyton Manning step, that Tom Brady last year or first year in Tampa Bay, or the Randy Moss year, right? Because he has every single weapon around him. Our team goes as our offense goes, and that's what Dan Campbell told us last year. It's great that it's good that we can have a good defense and shore it up, but we go as our offense goes. And we're not going to have any more games where Jimmy Garoppolo misses Devontae Adams on 2 wide open touchdowns, or, when we're, the San Diego Chargers screw the game up, give us the ball back, and then we go take the win, right? But we were so close to obviously winning and not winning the Super Bowl, but getting to the Super Bowl, but we were also close enough where a couple of those games go another way. And we're sitting at a Tampa Bay game where it's 13-6, and the ball's in the air, and nobody thinks James was going to catch that ball. Now we're grateful that he caught it, but we didn't think he was going to catch it. Like, we were really close to being another 9-8 team, just as close as we were to being 12-5. So if Jared Goff is going to take advantage, the real question is, can he take advantage of this offense? Can he put Atlanta away immediately? Can he put Tampa Bay away immediately? Can he put these teams away, take control of this offense, take the next step, and get us to where we want to go and look like the best quarterback in this football league?
So it's interesting. We talk about guys that can get that next gear or have an extra gear to get to, and we don't ever really bring up Jared Goff. John, do you think there's another gear for him?
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in regards to
50 touchdowns?
Yeah, 50 touchdowns. That's a bit lofty. It would be great, but it's in being able to spread the ball around more, understanding that, J-Mo is a weapon that he can utilize, one that he can count on, trust, and rely upon. Now, all of a sudden, instead of, always going to Amon-Ra St. Brown or Laporta or Gibbs out of the backfield, you add that extra weapon. Now, in some of those big plays, maybe that's how he gets some extra time. It's not Jared Goff. It's being able to utilize the more tools around him to be able to up his numbers. It's the yards after catch for Jamison Williams. It's the yards after catch for Amon-Ra St. Brown. All of those things will add up to more yards for Jared Goff. He didn't do anything different. It's being able to have the threat of spreading the ball around to more weapons that will open up his most trusted.
Am I allowed to answer the question? Because I think I'm going to get judged. I don't think he has another gear, but I think he's good enough. Does that make sense? He's not going to physically get, more dynamic in the run game. I don't think his arm is going to get any stronger. I think he has a wealth of knowledge in this system. He is in complete control as kind of the command center of this offense, and I think he's good enough to win a Super Bowl with. I think he proved that last year in those playoff games. It wasn't his fault they lost the NFC title game. I just don't see him as a guy who, at this point in his career, is going to hit...
add elements to his game.
Yeah, and I think he's steady.
Yeah.
He's very steady for a team that needs that position to be steady, right? Getting the right looks, stay ahead of the sticks, convert the third downs, finish in the red zone.
Basically the same thing I said, just in a different way.
But I was meaner. I said he doesn't have an extra gear, and it's going to get taken the wrong way, John.
No, I don't know that that'll be taken the wrong way. And I hope it's not, because it is simply, when I talk about if he's going to have increased numbers, it's because J-Mo is better, and better than Josh Reynolds was. It's because Laporta and Gibbs take another step forward in year 2. It's an offensive line that performs better than it did last year. Jared Goff is not going to add a whole lot to his game at this point in his career. He is who he is. It's being able to better utilize the talents around him and having those players just step up. Because if you do have a wide receiver 1 in Amon-Ra St. Brown, J-Mo becomes number 2, and let's just keep Laporta and Gibbs out of this equation, but then you have a reliable big target in third and medium situations in Donovan Peoples-Jones. That could be an added. That's what Josh Reynolds was last year. Now you got a bigger target that you might be able to utilize, and if you can utilize more weapons, his numbers will go up, but he's not adding any tools to the tool chest.
We'll get Heather's news coming up next. We also want to get into Tarik Skubal. There's always more with Tarik Skubal. We're less than a week away from the trade deadline. There are odds. There are sentiments from executives around baseball as to how this is going to go, and they are all on the same page. And there's a trade proposal. We want to know your response to that. It's 97.1. 6 days away from the deadline, the latest trade proposal. We're getting some specifics. This is from MLB Network, Joel Sherman, who does some stuff with New York Post too. He has a hypothetical trade. I want to know your reaction, yes or no. You can bet on this stuff, apparently. Bookies.com has odds on where Tarik Skubal will finish the season. The favorite is the Baltimore Orioles, not the Detroit Tigers. But that's in contrast to what rival executives think. ESPN says all of them are on the same page. Not a single MLB executive recently surveyed believes the Tigers will actually trade Tarik Skubal. Is that the camp you're in?
Yeah, I don't think it actually gets done. I don't think Baltimore wants to give up what it would actually take to pry Tarik Skubal away from the Tigers. I just don't think they're willing to do that. And it doesn't mean that it's not bad. It's not that they should. It's that right now Scott Harris has the biggest bargaining chip in all of Major League Baseball. And it should be a one-sided deal. We win this deal on paper right now. And it depends on how Jackson Holliday, how any of these other players develop as to whether ultimately you win the deal or not. But as we sit today, it is clear and everybody agrees that this was, if it was done in the offseason, if it was done at league meeting, then it would be a bad deal for Baltimore. But it's done right now with the idea that Baltimore wants to win a World Series this year. They need Tarik Skubal to do that. The Detroit Tigers have that chip, and they hold on to it and make it a one-sided deal that everybody agrees. As of now, the Tigers win this deal.
Yeah, I'd make it hurt for them. Make it painful. Corbin Burns is on the last year of his deal. If he's not re-signing, their best chance to win a World Series is to team Skubal up with them with all those bats and go get it done. If I was in Baltimore, I'd be screaming to give up these prospects to go win a World Series. Here in Detroit, it's very different. Tarik Skubal's a building block. I know people say, well, what if you're not going to extend him? If you're not going to pay Tarik Skubal, if you're not going to pay bats this offseason, let's just shut down the entire team and be done with it. I mean, I'm serious. If you're not willing to try to get better in 25, spend a little on the bats, spend on Tarik Skubal, and field a competitive team in 25, then what's the point? I am only going to operate of the belief that I want to win next season. And Tarik Skubal helps them win next season. He helps them win the next couple seasons. And then, yes, you make sure to get a deal done and keep homegrown, all-star caliber Cy Young winners on your team. I mean, the alternative is the Chris Sale deal, which I always cite because it was multiple years of control, lefty, Cy Young caliber. The White Sox traded away Chris Sale. They got the number one prospect in baseball. They got another top 100 prospect, and it didn't work out. And the Red Sox, who got Chris Sale, won the World Series.
Or it's the Juan Soto deal, and the Washington Nationals go from, winning a World Series to doormat to right back to contending, or at least being in the conversation in a matter of just a couple years.
Here's the trade proposal for you to consider. Tarik Skubal and Jason Foley for Jackson Holliday and Heston Kjerstad. We haven't talked a lot about Kjerstad. Just a quick little deal on him. He's 25 years old, lefty bat. He's in the majors right now. He's hitting about 300 with a 900 OPS. It's in a small sample, but major league ready bat plus Jackson Holliday, who would be your starting shortstop, lefty bat, bloodlines. His dad was Matt Holliday. John, do you do that deal? Yes or no?
Not with Foley. I'm not giving up two arms for two projects and prospects. Let's just say prospects instead of projects, even though that's what they are.
So if he kept Foley, you do the deal?
I would be more apt to do it because you do have a guy that has produced at the major league level, even though it's a very small sample size in Kjerstad, because it's 54 at bats. Right now he's batting just under 300. All the stats that you just mentioned, but it's 54 at bats. He hasn't even reached that 100 bat mark.
Right.
And in terms of Jackson Holliday, he was up. It didn't look good, but people still have him as the number one overall prospect in all of baseball.
Yeah, I'd say throw in Mayo, and we'll get it done. And they would go, that's an overpay. We wouldn't. And I go, okay, great.
That's my point.
And I'd hang up the phone, and we'd move on.
That's my point. You have
I go hang out at the world headquarters and go from there.
Yeah, and hey, go ahead. Lose in the American League Championship Series. You might be good enough to get there, Baltimore, but if you want that World Series, we've got what you need.
And I'm willing to keep Foley in the deal. I mean, relievers are volatile. If I can get 3+ young bats, now you're starting to make it make sense for me. Otherwise, I'm keeping the best player in the deal. I'm putting the best product out in 25. I'm not doing this forever rebuild thing. And you can develop young players while you win at the same time. That is the focal point if I was running this team.
Here's the other thing about Kierstead. I know we're going to get to Heather's news in just a moment, but he was the number 2 overall pick, right?
Yes.
We had at one point a number 1 overall pick. Where's he's at right now?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's Spencer Torkelson. He's back down in AAA and doesn't look like it's getting any better down there.
It's a great point. Kierstead is not certain, even though he's debuted in the majors.
Holiday's not certain.
And he's certainly not certain. Someone compares Kierstead to Kerry Carpenter. They're the exact same player. There's some redundancy there. Listen, you can't have enough good bats. I wouldn't say no to getting him in a deal, but he can't be like, the swing piece of the deal. All right, let's get to Heather's news.
Let's talk about these sweet and necessary upgrades that are coming to training camp. Pretty cool. Have you seen the photos of what's... Yes. Okay, so if you go out to training camp, if you've been there, there's not a lot of relief from the sun, right? It can get very, very hot. Well, on Tuesday, they unveiled these cool new, awnings that are going to protect fans from the sun out on the bleachers. Pretty cool. And then the VIP tent. It's not just a tent. It is now a double-decker tent, if you want to call it that. It's pretty... I mean,
I've seen the photos.
Yeah. Obviously, we'll see it next week, but... Pretty cool.
Hey, listen, they know there's a demand. They want to upgrade the experience. It's good on them. I
think it's great because there really isn't anywhere, unless you're in that VIP tent, to go to escape the sun, right? There's no, I guess you could try to find a shaded spot, but then you're not seeing the action. So it's kind of defeats the purpose. So this is great. Very cool. All right, so I got a bunch of Olympic news. So the Canadian Olympic Committee is apologizing after a staff member of the women's soccer team used a drone to go spy on New Zealand during a training session.
Oh, come on.
Ruh-roh. Yeah, so in a statement, the committee said that they were aware of a non-accredited member of the Canada soccer support team. That member was detained by French authorities on July 22nd. They say that they are very disappointed. And they say, you know what, the actions don't, meet our standards. So I don't know what's going to happen with this person or what the penalty will be besides being detained by French authorities.
Greg, you want to beat me to the punchline?
I don't know. We might not have the same punchline. We might not.
Stallions keep him busy?
I'll go. My punchline was that the statement read, sorry.
Sorry, we didn't mean to.
Yep. Also, more Olympic news. At the Paris Olympics, surfers may actually have it better than any other group of athletes.
Oh, the
Did
accommodations?
You see their accommodations?
Yeah.
So they're not in the standard, Olympic village where all the other athletes are going to be.
Cardboard beds, no AC. The U.S. will have them, but...
No, none of that. They're staying on a luxury cruise ship in Tahiti.
Oh.
And it's pretty cool because it's not like a massive cruise ship, like a huge Carnival cruise ship, but it's pretty darn big. It holds 230 passengers, and it's got everything a cruise ship would have, right? The pool, the gym, the spa, the bars, probably a library, you name it. It's all there. Pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
So
I don't see the surfers utilizing the library very much, other than
what are you saying about surfers?
What do you think surfers are like?
I don't think during the Olympics you're going to sit there and
maybe they get
disqualified,
not disqualified, or they're out of medal contention. At least you're kind of on like a cool vacation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Surfers are dumb and can't read. That's what I learned today.
That's what I took out of it as well. Yeah. Did you hear about this British equestrian?
No.
Oh, she's a 3-time Olympic champion. She's been banned from the Paris Olympics.
Why?
Because
I saw the headline. What happened?
There's a video that just surfaced online that allegedly shows her basically beating or whipping a horse more than you would do in a training session, pretty viciously. It surfaced online, and she is taken herself out, but she's also been banned for 6 months competing. Yeah, she is now apologizing. She says she's deeply ashamed and made an error on judgment. So not a good look at all.
No.
I don't want to see the video, but it does exist.
That's Heather with the news. One last note. Today is Detroit's birthday.
Oh, hey, happy birthday.
313 turns 323. 323 years of Detroit. So happy birthday, Detroit. Coming up next, some of your responses to that proposed trade for Tarik Skubal. We'll read them next. And I would like to introduce a vocabulary word to describe what I watched last night with the Tigers. 97.1. Tell you to take a dive into the best pool in history, Stadium Swim, located at Circa Resort and Casino, where you can catch the biggest games at a viewing experience that's built for sports fans. And we're going to be heading out there in August. As we gear up for the football season, start making your plans. Chill in one of the 6 pools, 3 different levels, always a perfect view of the massive 40-foot tall high-definition screen. Stadium Swim, America's favorite place to watch football. Yes, absolutely. With the swim-up bars, the Insta-ready selfie walls, and a nonstop party. Score your perfect game day spot. They've got the cozy day beds, private cabanas. You can lounge at the center of the action. It's all right there for you. Reserve your place today. 365 days of sports poolside. Located at Circa Resort and Casino, downtown Las Vegas on Fremont Street. Stadium Swim, all sports, all seasons. Book your spot today. CircaLasVegas.com. The trade proposal from MLB Network sends Tarik Skubal to the Orioles along with Foley for Jackson Holliday and Heston Kierstead. Reactions. No deal. We have to clearly win the trade. That's 50-50 and our two best pitchers. No deal. Terrible deal. 2 for 2. We're getting fleeced. Sounds like Al Avila put that one together. Another no deal. Texter points out the Nationals are set up well for the future because of the Soto deal. I would add that that deal is not a Soto deal. So you're not doing it.
Well, I agree. It's not a Soto deal. And it's kind of a 2 for 2, 1 for 1 type of thing. And you don't come away with it feeling like we won that deal. You come away with it feeling like Baltimore won the deal and they're going to go on and win could go on and win a World Series.
They are the more desperate party. The only way the Tigers would be desperate is if they know they have no intention of keeping Tarik Skubal long term. And then it's, will Jackson Holliday ever be on the table again? And then you're forced to be in a bad position where you're giving Tarik Skubal away. You don't want to do that.
No.
Texter points out that, I hate when we do this. Texter points out Michael Fulmer. Says you should have dealt him for Alex Bregman. Not moving Skubal would be another misstep like Fulmer. I see a lot of people making the Fulmer comparison. They're both pitchers. Pitchers could get hurt, and that's where the comparisons end. Skubal's a Cy Young Award caliber pitcher. Fulmer never was.
You always want to be ahead of that. You can't predict an injury. Although we know that Tarik Skubal has had arm issues in the past. He's had his arm event. Does it mean he's going to have it again? No. Does it mean he's not? No. We don't know. We don't know that. Here's why you want to get position players and you want to get as many as possible to win the trade is if you get Holiday, you get Mayo, you get, Kierstead, you're getting somebody that should produce or could produce day in, day out.
And you got
instead of once every 5.
But you got to give me like 3 or 4 of these. I mean, the
Right.
Soto deal was like a 6-player thing. If you give me 3 or 4 of these guys, with 2 or 3 of them being high-level guys, I'm feeling like I'm going to get at least 1 or 2 that pan out, that become everyday guys. But I can't do it 2 for 2. That's a no deal. John, the Tigers lost yesterday, and my vocabulary word is languish.
Oh.
Languish. To waste away or to suffer neglect. How long are they going to do this 10-man rotation or 10-man bullpen thing?
Well, if they trade Flaherty, let's just leave Skubal out. But they trade Flaherty, you better get used to it because it's going to happen more often.
And beyond that, who is Bly? What's his face?
What's his face?
Madras. Who is this guy, and why is he batting in the 8th inning with the tying run on second base?
Oh, that's the guy that they swapped for Valade.
I know. Bly Madras is his
but again,
name.
Who's Valade? Who's this? Who was the cat at the beginning of the year?
Buddy Kennedy.
Buddy Kennedy. Like you're going to have a lot of guys that on the back of their baseball card say that I made the big leagues in 2024 with the Detroit Tigers.
Now, some of this is AJ pinch hit him for Andy Ibanez to get lefty-righty, different matchup. His bench at that point was Riley Green, who he apparently wasn't going to play under any circumstances, is expected to DH today. Your backup catcher and Javi Baez. It's not like there were great options. Now, I think if Riley Green can DH today, he could have at least swung the stick yesterday. You don't have to ask him to play the field. You could always bring Baez in and rearrange everybody, move Gio over to first, move Vierling to third. You could get creative.
Yeah, but that to me was a hard and fast rule. Hey, today, Riley Green is not going to see the field. He's not going to go in to bat as a pinch hitter. He's not going to go in as a pinch runner. He's not going to go in the field. It is a 100% day off to make sure that whatever he has that is sore gets enough rest to heal up so that you don't miss 10 days. You don't miss 30 days.
Well, and he has been remarkably durable this year, and the knock on him was he needed to stay healthy.
Yeah.
So I'm not opposed to getting a guy a breather, especially a guy who played in the All-Star game, didn't get the same off time as everybody else. It's just frustrating when it's Bly Madras, 0 for 2 strikeouts, all pivotal 7th and 8th inning at-bats in what was a 1-run game going, yeah, this roster was neglected. There's not a better bat. And this rotation, they got to make a move at some point. I mean, they're going to go all bullpen again on Thursday. And, John, Flaherty's got to go 6. if Jack Flaherty has a hiccup today, they're screwed. They're screwed. What are they going to do on Thursday? I mean, they're going to have to call somebody up sooner rather than later. They can't neglect this. Well, I guess they can if they're really not in it, but.
Well, I mean, this could go from, hey, they're one game back of 500 when they were 50 and 51. Now they're 2 back because of the loss yesterday. They get to the trade deadline, and if Flaherty's moved, it's all in. Skubal is moved. Who are you going to put on the mound? Mize isn't back. Manning's not back.
Open tryouts.
It could get really, really ugly. And right now, we knew at the beginning of the year, the pitching staff had been healthy in large part for most of the first half of the season. What happens if they start to have pitchers that miss their starts? That's what we're seeing now.
Right. Gator is coming to the studio. Gator, can I ask you a personal question?
Okay.
Do you eat on the couch?
Yeah, but with a plate.
Okay, well.
Well, I mean, I'm not like having a sandwich just hanging out my hand.
Okay.
I'm saying,
right, yeah.
If I do, it'll be, I've got something to catch shrapnel.
Yeah.
Heather is no food on the couch.
Yeah, no food in the living room.
Eyes like, are you nuts?
No, I don't mind what other people do. We don't really bring food into the living room, but it's the way our house is set up. Our kitchen is right there, like it's all open concept. So it's like there's no need to sit on the couch because I could sit at the table.
Well, so the context of the conversation is that the Costas got a new couch. It's beautiful.
Oh, nice.
They can move it around. They can reposition it. It's a beautiful piece of furniture.
But it's beige.
It's beige. And the very first night that they had it, he laid down the law because his wife wanted to go in there, watch a little TV, have some food. He said, you are not allowed to eat on my couch.
That's not how I said it.
In my house.
That's kind of harsh, isn't it?
It is harsh.
It's how it came across.
I just want to keep it nice while we just got it. I know stains are going to happen, but while we just got the couch, don't eat messy foods. Like, you can leave some crumbs, but nothing with no pasta bolognese, as we would say, or red wine or
fair.
coffee or chocolate.
But you got a cat. Is your cat declawed?
No.
Mm-mm.
How's that going to work?
Gator, don't complicate this more
Well,
than it needs to be.
that's my. I mean, that'd be my.
Do you
concern.
trim the cat's nails?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't declaw. I'm not going to do a PSA here, but you shouldn't declaw cats.
Oh, I'm on the same page as you. Our cat is not declawed either.
But part of having a cat is that
they scratch stuff.
You've got to
trust me. I could show you some wear and tear in the house because of it. So.
And do you allow the cat on the couch?
Yes, we allow. Yeah.
Sit on your lap or whatever.
Yeah.
Sure. Shedding? Is it a shedding?
Yeah, but you can
allow the cat. Cats are. You can't say no cat.
Cats can do what they want.
Cats can do whatever the hell.
You can teach a dog not to jump on the couch.
But you could like broom up and sweep up cat hair. If a stain sets in the couch, I mean.
This is a fabric couch. It's not a leather.
It's not a leather couch. We used to have a leather couch, and we eat. Okay.
I try to impart.
Is this a mistake?
No, it's not a mistake at all. I'm just going to say this, and maybe Doug can chime in and agree or disagree. I think you just live, man.
Yeah, he's in for a very stressful future if he's setting the tone. You're going to be.
Doug, she called me a couch cop because I'm policing the couch, and
there was a very important pause that happened because his wife is out of town after he has laid down the law. I said, with your wife out of town, have you eaten on the couch? Long pause.
Long pause.
Popcorn.
Long
Popcorn's
pause.
fine. Popcorn's fine.
I mean, what else goes on in that couch?
You can draw your own conclusions. Doug, what do you have coming up today?
Dan Campbell spoke this morning. We'll pull the best of what he had to say as the Lions are on the practice field today as the season is underway.
A buzz in the air. Carson Anderson next, 97.1.
It's dark in here today. Turn the lights on or something. I feel like we're doing the show at night. What the hell's going on around here? Saving energy? Did we not pay the bill?
Well, it's dark outside, man. That's all. It's grayish.
So are you ready for this? And what I mean by that is, you ready for this Lions season? Because they're on the practice field today. They play their first preseason game 2 weeks from tomorrow. This is a completely different feel going into a season with justified massive expectations. And you look at last year, there was hope, right? There was hope that the 2022 season would carry into 2023, and total vindication that there could be carryover. And now Lions are talking about the Super Bowl and the whole enchilada, as Dan Campbell put it. I think the fans' mentality has to be different. Look, I don't want to speak for the fans, but I feel like the fans' mentality has to be different in terms of, carving out time, saving your money to go to games. I was looking today at training camp hats. Like, I don't need a training camp Lions hat, but Fanatic sends out an email with the training camp hat, and I'm like, maybe I get a training camp hat.
You love your hats.
I do love hats, and I'm trying not to buy more hats. I'm trying to spend the money. The hats, they add up. But I'm like, I got to get a training camp hat. No, I don't need to get a training camp hat. First time in my life I considered the training camp hat. So, Gator, are you ready for this expectation-filled season?
I don't know if I'm ready for training camp to start. I think it's awesome that it starts. From a professional standpoint, I am embracing the hell out of football being back. Mm-hmm. From a personal standpoint, I'm still into baseball.
Yeah, no, I get it. But
because this team has, I know they lost last night, but 10-4 or 11-4 in the last 15 games is it's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. I'm enjoying that, and I'm curious to see what happens in the next 7 days leading up to the trade deadline. They've got games against Cleveland and Minnesota and Cleveland. So they can make a little bit of noise if they want to leading up to the deadline and make it interesting if they're going to maybe buy little pieces like a bullpen arm here and there, or maybe buy a bigger piece and try to find a starting rotation arm, or are they going to sell like they probably should? Jack Flaherty, where is he going to go? What's going to happen with Tarik Skubal is, there's a lot of smoke with Tarik Skubal, but it seems like that smoke is just being wafted away by general managers everywhere that are being talked about anonymously or whatever. They're like, I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think the Tigers are going to trade him. I don't think Baltimore is willing to give up a package of players it would take to get him. But, nonetheless, there's smoke. So is it just going to blow away because, somebody just pulled up the dry ice, or is this actually there's a fire underneath?
So you're not ready?
Not just yet.
You're not into that mode yet. I think given the challenges of this Tiger season and the way they played so poorly, and there's some really encouraging trends going on that we'll get to later in the show, coupled with the Bally's fiasco, it feels like Detroit is less checked in on that team.
Sure.
And so maybe, just maybe, football season gets embraced earlier than normal. When you consider lack of accessibility to the Tigers, coupled with a couple of month stretch of very disappointing play, and the anticipation for this Lions team, man, I think last year there was still an undercurrent of pleasant surprise that, oh my God, we've got a team that isn't going to let us down. And with each passing week that they continued to win, I feel like the fan base was more and more, stoked and fired up. And I can't believe this is real. And is it real? And they're going to go to the playoffs. Oh my God, they're winning the division. Oh my God, we're hosting a playoff game. Oh my God, we won that playoff game. Like, all of that stuff felt like it had a degree of pleasant surprise. And now all of that stuff is sort of required. Like, they are, in the eyes of the fans, how disappointing will it be if they don't win the division? Now, you need to get into the dance, but it would be pretty disappointing if they don't win the division. It'd be pretty disappointing if they don't make it back to the NFC title game.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with the expectation comes a little bit different approach. This isn't the Red Wings going through the motions for 82 games just to get to the playoffs. This isn't that yet.
No, it's not. And I think the one thing that always casts a pall over what could happen here, and that dark cloud, is injury factor. That you know it's going to happen, but you don't know who it's going to happen to, and how devastating it can be. When in the season will it happen? And that's the thing that's just the big old equalizer with everything. And this roster is as good as any roster in the National Football League. It's up there. I mean, it's certainly the top 5 roster. ESPN had some rankings the other day that came out with projected power rankings over the next 3 years, and I think the Lions were 4th on that list, and they ranked the rosters, and they had a top 5 roster. San Francisco had the number 1 roster. It's a really good football team on paper. It's probably a better team on paper than what we saw in the field, and what we saw in the field got to the NFC Championship game.
Yep.
So I really like this team, and yet obviously something happens here, something happens there, where there's trouble for any team that deals with that.
It's an unknown variable that, we just kind of have it as for every Lions conversation, sort of the given is, unless there's injuries, unless there's serious injuries to the wrong people or in Moss.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because there are some position groups you can look at and they can absorb that.
They can weather.
They can handle this. They can handle that. And then you start looking at the other positions and you're like, ooh, can they handle that? I don't know. And for most teams in the NFL, for most of the 32 teams, that's the backup quarterback. You don't know. And we have no idea what Hendon Hooker is going to be because he hasn't practiced. And this is where you start to build up some excitement of what's happening, because that's one of the things you're concerned about, and you're going to finally see what he is over the next 4 weeks. We're going to see what he's like going into some preseason games, which is kind of cool. But at the same time, my confidence level isn't huge for him to be able to step in and be a capable backup. And I have to ask myself, is this the area that they need to go out and use some of that cap space?
Yeah, I mean, look, the 2 weeks from tomorrow, one of the bigger debate points might be who's the starting quarterback for that preseason game, Nate Sudfeld or Hendon Hooker, because I doubt Jared Goff is going to take a snap. 248-539-9797. It's Carson Anderson, training camp underway. Dan Campbell spoke this morning. We'll bring you the most interesting stuff he had to say coming up right out of the gate here at 10:20 on Carson Anderson on 97.1 The Ticket. A lot of Tiger stuff to get to, but at the Salad of the Lions, well, it's training camp. It's practice. It's the start of the season, and they play a football game 2 weeks from tomorrow. And what is the most highly anticipated Lions season in my memory, and maybe the most highly anticipated Detroit professional season of all time. Lions with big expectations, training camp opening. Yesterday was first install, weigh-ins and conditioning tests, as everybody reported. And today Dan Campbell met with the media at 8 a.m. First, regarding injured players, he mentioned that DJ Reader is on course, not in a hurry to get him back on the practice field, but he's just getting his strength back, but he's on course to be ready for the regular season. Marcus Davenport and Brian Branch were going to be out on the field today going through walkthroughs. Davenport was closer than Branch. Those were some of the injury concerns. But it's weird. They have a very young team, a very talented and young team. They will, if the starters are as expected, have the youngest defense in the NFL this coming season. And yet it feels like a veteran group. As Dan Campbell mentioned, when they do hit the practice field, they can hit the ground running. Fine-tuning.
Yeah,
it's about fine-tuning.
I like that attitude. I mean, it puts the players on notice, that you have to stay in shape, you have to stay ready, and there are high expectations. It's Super Bowl or bust. I mean, that's the way this team is going to have the attitude. They should have that attitude.
But when you don't have to waste time with stuff like alignment, like you said,
yeah.
I mean, it's not like everybody's been here forever. You're always breaking in a new rookie class and you're breaking in a few free agents. But the bulk of this roster, man, is you don't have to waste time on the minutia.
Exactly. So you've got a huge percentage of the roster that's just ready to go. And rookies are always swimming in it, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, every year you'll hear this story like, yeah, I'm just learning a lot, and the coaches will talk about it, and they'll say, yeah, well, they're kind of lost a little bit, but they'll find their way. It's just how training camp is. And it is. I mean, even Terry and Arnold the other day said, he's like, man, I thought I was in shape. I'm not in shape. I thought I was in great shape this offseason. I come to camp, and we're doing these these physical testing stuff, and I'm like, wow, I gotta get back at it. Like, this is tough. Like, yeah, it's tough, and I'm glad to hear you say that. I'm also glad to hear him say that he thought he was ready, but it's another level. And to learn that right away as a rookie, that's great.
Dan Campbell addressing the media this morning as the Lions have opened up practice. Training camp is underway. And he talked about the off-season roster additions and his expectations. Here's Dan Campbell. Are they willing to do it the way we do it is one line that I found very interesting. When you think about the approach that they require their players to take, I almost feel like, of course they do it the way you do it, or you wouldn't have drafted them. Like, they vet these guys to the extent where, one area that people really second guess Dan Campbell or I'm not Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes. Last year at the trade deadline, when 2 edge rushers were moved and the Lions didn't get involved, I kind of think he's earned the right to pick and choose which players they take and which players they pass on. And, one of those players, after doing some deep dive, I heard wasn't really going to fit in with the Lions' way of doing things. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to grant them that right to pass on a player that everything else looks like it makes sense because the track record is so good at bringing in guys that make plays for them. And, I haven't had any pushback on this. You say things on the air all the time and people will disagree. The amount of nonsense with the Lions right now is so, it almost doesn't, it does happen. There's stuff like the gambling suspension, and obviously they had a player they had to cut in the offseason for his off-the-field behavior. But the nonsense is minimal compared to the past. Like the Lions have had distractions. They've had off-the-field stuff. Gator, it goes back to the vetting process. I don't worry about the players doing things the way the Lions do them because I think they do a great job of eliminating those that wouldn't and don't even bother bringing them in.
They do a great job with that. And there's a particular player that they're looking for. They've built in their mind, here's what we want out of our future Detroit Lions. If you don't fit that criteria, then they're not likely to look at you unless your talent is just so far off the charts that they have to. And even then, they've shown that they'll pass on that. And it's gotten them to where they are. It's part of who they are. It's part of changing the culture of this organization. And you can't argue with what they've done because of the success that they have had. It's not incremental success. These have been giant leaps to go from, the 3.5 wins the first year. I say half because of the tie. To go from 3.5 wins the first year to winning 9 games the second year and damn near making the playoffs in that second year. Knocking out Green Bay at Green Bay when they had everything to gain with that game. That was awesome. And we talk about, can you carry momentum from one season to the next? And we generally agree, yeah, you can't really carry it over one season to the next. And they kind of did.
They did. They absolutely did.
They did. They went from 9 wins to 12 wins, started off the season beating the Super Bowl champs on their field, and carried that through to get to the NFC Championship game where obviously they had the lead at halftime. It was... these are giant steps they're taking. It's not incremental steps, and I think in large part it's because of how they change the culture by the types of players that they're bringing in.
And so he's talking, too, about we don't know. We don't know until they hit the field. If you look at Brad Holmes' draft record, okay, and one thing that everybody assumes, every fan base thinks in that moment in time that they got the first-round pick. I shouldn't say everybody. Most fans go, can't wait to see the first-round pick. Can't wait to see the first-round pick. Brad Holmes' first-round picks have been Penei Sewell, and the bust percentage is at like 0.0 with Penei Sewell. The next year, he took Aiden Hutchinson and Jamison Williams. I mean, Hutch is exceptionally good.
Yeah.
Jamison Williams is...
Big year for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big year for him. He's not trending to be a bust, though. He could be still, but I don't think he is. Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell, 2 guys that aren't trending to be a bust. Their hit percentage seems pretty high right now. And you mix in Terrion Arnold, okay? And you go, all right, they don't know on Terrion Arnold. But given the track record, we should be damn encouraged. Their first-round picks the decade before, right? And you forget how bad it can be. And maybe Detroiters will never forget. Nick Fairley never lived up to the hype.
Nope.
Riley Reif never lived up to the hype.
He started. He was okay, but not up to the hype.
Ziggy Ansah.
Ziggy had a few really good productive years, but it was like 2 or 3 productive years, and then...
Yeah. I would say Aiden Hutchins has probably already exceeded Ziggy Ansah. Eric Ebron. No. Laken Tomlinson.
Still in the league, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Not really worth it. Taylor Decker's a good player. Jared Davis.
Oh, no.
Not really worth it. Frank Ragnow, good player.
Absolutely worth it.
TJ Hawkinson, good player.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Okudah, bust. Like that's the 10 draft picks before. Sewell, first rounders before Sewell, Hutch, J-Mo, Gibbs, Campbell, and Arnold.
Now, I want to be fair here, too, though. Penei Sewell was drafted 6th overall, 7th overall, something like that.
7th, yes.
Okay, and it would have been really interesting had Atlanta done the right thing and taken Penei Sewell, and then what would the Lions have done? So that's a top 8 pick. Then you've got Aiden Hutchinson, who was 2nd overall. And then the other picks they had were Jameer Gibbs
J-Mo was 12, Gibbs was 12, Campbell was 18.
Yeah, and they traded back with Gibbs, but yeah, these are higher picks than what those previous 10. There's a couple. There's a couple in there, yeah, and it could have flat out bust.
Yep.
But you
Eric
look at
Ebron was 10, Ziggy Ansah was 5.
Yeah, but Tomlinson and Reif and Davis, those are guys in the 20s, right?
Yep. Nick Fairley was 13. And the higher you are, Terran Arnold's 24 though. So
well, I know this is a real test here to see. I happen to love the pick because I think he's this maybe the best corner in the draft and certainly in the top 2 in my mind with with whatever research I did. Take that with a grain of salt, but I viewed him as 1 or 2 among the corners. I couldn't believe they got him where they got him, but that's what happens when you have a run on offensive players and it pushed everything back. I love it. I'm dying to see what he is.
Dan Campbell said something extraordinarily interesting today about drawing from his previous time in the NFL at previous stops and how he and why he so staunchly guards against a letdown. Like he coaches against a letdown. We'll get to that today at 10:35 here on Carson Anderson on 97.1 The Ticket. Tuck Carr, Scott Anderson, 97.1 to Ticket. Open lines, 248-539-9797 with training camp opening, dedicating much of the first hour to Lions talk. So it opens today. Dan Campbell met with the media today and talked about a variety of things, including the ability to hit the ground running, because while they still have a young team, it's a young team that feels like a veteran team. And most of what they have done is routine for their guys. And there's always new players to break in, veterans to break in, free agents and players that were free agents and were traded for, and a draft class, as always, to break in. And there are expectations for those new players. So, but I mean, the truth is you're always going to be doing that because every season there's change. But, I mean, this is a group that's been there and done that, and they can fine-tune some things, spend some time on the minutia. That makes a difference between winning and losing. And if you think about, I mean, that San Francisco loss came down to a lot of minutia. And what I mean by that is routine plays that weren't made. Plays that I think every player that was involved in the routine plays that led to, and catastrophic routine plays that led to that loss, I think every last player that was involved in them would say, yeah, I should make that play every time.
Sure.
And, one of those players isn't here anymore, and a couple of them are. And so that's extra time on honing in those little things that shouldn't make a difference in the end, could make a difference in the end this year with them trying to get over the top and win the NFC. So, in the past, when the Lions flared up and had a decent to good season, which almost never included a playoff win, there was always skepticism going into the next year that they are going to find a way to let down the fan base. There is not an undercurrent of that this year. It's something that previous regimes could try to guard against, but it felt like it was inevitable that a good season would be followed by a bad season, didn't it?
Absolutely.
It didn't seem like they would string together a stretch of credible play, which led to a lot of that's why there was always skepticism with the Lions.
Yeah, because when we did have that thought as fans, like, okay, they took big strides, they made the playoffs, let's build on that. They're going to be better coming up the next year, and then it doesn't happen, and it happens more than once, then you're just conditioned to think that it's not going to be better. Hey, let's just get ready for the bad year, and hopefully they can get something in the draft or find a trade or whatever. But that's not the case anymore.
So Dan Campbell, as a coach, how do you make sure that the Lions don't show up to training camp and act like they've arrived? How do you make sure that the Lions don't show up to training camp and become prone to what had befallen previous Lions regimes, and that is letdowns? That maybe an unwarranted sense of arrogance that we are here and we're just going to roll out the helmets and win football games. How do you guard against that? Dan Campbell told an interesting story this morning. That was the 2000 New York Giants that went 12-4 in the regular season, won the NFC East, and made it to the Super Bowl. And they came back in 2001. So 2000 New York Giants, 12-4. 2001 New York Giants went 7-9. He was a part of those teams. He was a role player in 2000. He was kind of their Brock Wright. And they came back the following year, and he played more, but the team was worse. And Dan Campbell, who's got more credibility than any Lions coach in our lifetime, is drawing from that to guard against it happening here in Detroit. They won't be getting out of practice early. They won't not be in pads. Remember that speech he gave that made either Hard Knocks or I think it was Hard Knocks about him kind of imploring the guys, hey, I know you don't want to do this, but trust me. We're padded up and we're going to hit today. Trust me. And he is not wired to open that door. Letdowns can happen, but it's like I'm not opening that door even a crack to have this team let down.
No, and I think that I don't think it's a tough sell job with this team because I think the easiest sell job is what they've got going on right now. You guys fell short last year. You saw how close you were, and you made mistakes in the second half of the NFC Championship game to get to the Super Bowl. You want to make mistakes? We got work to do. Okay, you know what it took to get to that level last year. We have to repeat that. You can't just walk in and think that it's going to happen again. Absolutely not. Every team starts and resets their whole mantra when the season starts. We can get there. Well, we almost got there. We know what it takes. Get out there and do the work. And yeah, Dan Campbell has set that tone. From day one, he has set the tone.
I was listening to him speak this morning, and I was thinking about how this guy setting the tone in training camp. Do you remember when he got hired and he met with the media and gave the biting kneecaps line? And do you remember the reaction to that?
I think it was the majority of people liked it, and there were a lot of people that thought, who is this clown?
Who's this Neanderthal that is going to come in here and nobody coaches like him. Nobody talks like him. Who is the previous version of Dan Campbell? Why did they hire this guy?
Right.
Because coaches aren't like that. And this personality won't work. And right now when he speaks, I just feel like the bulk of Detroit is like, right on. Yup. The transformation, the winning people over, and you know, the Lions got accused, and a lot of the past of being the smartest guy in the room, trying to be the smartest guy in the room and do things that nobody else did. And in this case, they kind of did, and it's worked because there weren't a lot of examples of coaches that acted like Dan Campbell, talked like Dan Campbell, and brought such a player's mentality to the position of head coach. And look at this. It's freaking working.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was obviously could have gone a couple different ways, and it went the right way. Yeah. And I think when you have a coach who was a player and played with a high motor, I think it's always a good start. You know, you and I, you probably more than me, but I really like this coach, Mike Vrabel.
Yeah.
I think Vrabel's that kind of same guy who, like, lead by example, was a great football player and then wants to take that into the coaching realm. And I think Dan Campbell's like that, but he's got a quirkier personality. Mm-hmm. But when you're around him for a little bit, it's not quirky. It's who he is, and you buy into it. And that first press conference,
authentic.
Yeah, it is authentic. But the first press conference that came around, not everybody bought into it right away from the media. But once you're around the players, if you're around him for an hour, you're going to realize he's unrelenting. This is what's going on. And I remember the only thing that kind of bothered me about that press conference, it wasn't a biting kneecap. I loved it. I had chills on my arm when I heard that speech. I thought it was great. The thing that bothered me was when he said, "You sure you got the right Campbell?" Because he was talking about the college coach and all the rumors that they were going to go that route. And that was it. And it was gone in seconds. I didn't care after that, but it was just an interesting comment that he made because at the time we just had all this changeover and Sheila's taken over the team, and now we've got a whole new front office and all this. And don't joke about that because that makes it seem like they made the wrong choice or maybe there was a miscommunication on it. Well, there's no miscommunication. Dan Campbell's the unquestioned leader of this team, and this team loves Dan Campbell. They love playing for him. They love the results, and I think they love the journey too, which is huge because it makes things like training camp go easier.
Set the table there a little bit. Let's hear from the people. 248-539-9797. We got a 10 text question we'll get to today at 10:55. It's Carson Anderson, Open Lines, Lions training camp underway here on 97.1 The Ticket. Hey, it's Doug for the University of Michigan Credit Union, my new credit union. I joined because UMCU team members work really hard to ensure exceptional membership experiences. I had a great meeting with them recently, and that doesn't just happen by accident. It starts at the top of great leadership. And now they have some exciting news to share with you. UMCU is teaming up with Will Johnson, national champion cornerback, All-American with the Michigan Wolverines, chance to be an MVP of that defense. And you can score big by opening up a UMCU MVP checking account. This is an unbeatable offer. MVP checking from the University of Michigan Credit Union gives you a chance to intercept your debt by becoming a member and opening an MVP checking account. Set up direct deposit, transfer your existing loans from another financial institution, and bam, just like that, you'll get 2% off your current interest rate. This is huge because 2% savings can start to add up real quick. Intercept your debt and become a member today. Just visit umcu.org. Some restrictions apply. Visit website for details. Insured by NCUA. University of Michigan Credit Union, proud partner of Michigan Athletics. Doug Carr, Scott Anderson, 97 a ticket. 248-539-9797. Feedback coming in. Expectations are fine, and yes, they were up 17 in the NFC title game, but they were also a miraculous comeback away from losing twice to the lowly Bears. The 2024 Lions are somewhere in between those two extremes. No Super Bowl this year. That's from Brian and Monroe. Yeah, I mean, look, there's winning in the NFL isn't easy. Like the idea that they struggle to beat the Bears, makes me think of San Francisco, who won the NFC's 3-game losing streak, and how along the way, you don't just show up and win football games. It's not punch button. You should expect tough games against bad teams, because most bad teams are still within a touchdown of you. The average margin of victory. And you know why? Because we used to have a bad team, and I'd always sit here and go, God, they were within one score. Yeah, every single week. It was like so. Brian, I don't care about miraculous comebacks against the Bears twice or anything like that, because we were that team.
Did they get to the NFC Championship game?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Yeah. I honestly, I sat there, and there was a veteran that worked here that would look at me and say, "Oh, young Douglas, Terry Foster would preach to me, who cares about close losses in the NFL? Look at the scores." I'm like, yeah, but there were just one play, one possession away, Terry. And Terry was like, yeah, Doug, it's how it works. It's the NFL. And he was right. Learned a lot from Terry. 248-539-9797. Sam, you're on 97.1 The Ticket. Hi, Sam.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
What's up?
I just want to say, I just don't think it's a coincidence that we're finally seeing the Lions get successful. I mean, we look at the Pistons of the late 80s or the 04 Pistons, and they took on the identity of the city, just hard work and grinding. I mean, my favorite part of, the winning Red Wings teams was the grind line, and we finally have that hard work, that grit, in our football team. And to finally see success with it, it's huge. Like, we've seen so many times where, we were fine going 8-8, but now we don't give up. We win those close games, and I'm 32, and to finally be, confident going into a season of Lions football, I'm just so excited.
Sam, it's weird. It's weird to see a Lions team adopt a culture and a personality that we've seen with other Detroit teams. And you're right. You're right. It's part of what this team's makeup is. It feels like it's by design. I mean, I guess they have to validate everything this year in terms of, hey, we've got that grit and that mentality. But I mean, maybe even not. Maybe they've already validated it, because it really started to kick in midway through year 2 with Dan Campbell. And there's a belief, you don't carry it over. Stuff doesn't carry over from season to season. But that finish in 2022 totally set the table for 2023.
And it's weird, in football with a sport where you can't win by individuals, and to have a coach that we believe in. I feel like we have a cult of Dan Campbell in this city, and I just want to keep him, because you can't not want to play for him. And if we have football players who are going to go hard every single play, we're going to have success.
Hey, thank you for the phone call, Sam. 248-539-9797.
I love the roster. I love what they've put in there, how they add to the depth of this team. The starters in this team are really good. The depth players in this team are really good. The talent level on the basement floor of this team is very high. And that's exciting to see, because when we talked earlier in the show about the concern when injuries do occur, can you absorb them? This team is pretty well stocked to be able to absorb some injuries.
The one position where they really absorbed injuries last year and didn't see much of a drop-off was the offensive line.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, exactly, because it's an offensive line that has the starting unit chock full of guys that are all pro and Pro Bowl players. But the guys that fill in, you don't miss much of a beat. They all bring something a little bit different, and you can change your game plan based on that, and they still went out and won games despite not having players at the disposal all the time.
Mm-hmm. From Joe in a truck, when Dan Campbell said we have to wait and see if they still have it and if they do it our way, I think he's referring to the veteran free agents that they signed. Yeah, I mean, we talked about the vetting with the rookies, but I also think they vet the free agents. I don't think I mean, because I feel like that's one of the reasons why they didn't make a move for a specific player at the trade deadline last year. In fact, it's probably a lot easier to vet the free agents than it is the rookies. Because when the rookies come in and meet with you in Indianapolis,
They're on their best behavior.
Do you think they've got all their lines practiced?
Yeah.
I'm the hardest worker you're ever going to find. There's nothing more I want than to win, sir. I will do anything I can to help the team. You'll never hear me complain.
Yeah. Well,
do you think they're all coached on what to say?
Sure.
When you get into the NFL and you've been around a little bit and coaches have connections, they could probably do a better job of vetting what they are as a pro as opposed to what they said coming out of college.
Well, there are 3 words that I think all major sports live by when it comes to coaches and stuff, and that's tape don't lie.
Yeah.
You know, you can see, I mean, and the player you're talking about being Chase Young, that you alluded to, I'll say it, Chase Young, you look at the tape and you'll see plays where he's just standing there.
Was it
because it's not to his end. He's not putting forth any effort.
Was it the Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown run in the NFC title game where you could see had Chase Young run hard the whole way, he would have had a shot at stopping Gibbs short of the goal line, but he kind of loafed it. Wasn't that it?
Mm-hmm.
248-539-9797. Jerry in Flat Rock, you're on 97 The Ticket. Hi, Jerry.
Hey, how you doing, guys? I just wanted to say when I seen something different was when they celebrated beating Green Bay to keep them out of the playoffs, even though it should have been like a rough time for them. How they got kept out by going to overtime for the other game and all that stuff. So in that time when they should have actually been down, they actually celebrated keeping that team out of the playoffs and winning that football game. And that was just such a change in attitude compared to with the Lions team. I mean, I was kind of chuckling because the guy earlier said he was 32. I'm 53. So,
Jerry, I'm with you. That game is so important in proving to the fan base and to the team itself that things had changed because
that team just.
You treat it like it's
you
got to treat it like it's a playoff game, right? You found out just before kickoff that you're not going to make the playoffs because of what happened with the Rams and the Seahawks.
Yeah.
You found out you're not going to make it, and you know what Green Bay needs to do. Green Bay's thinking we're going to walk all over this team. That why should they care? They're out of the playoffs. We got this, and the Lions like not so fast, my friends, because our playoff game is right now, and they prove they can win. Not only win, but win on the road at one of the toughest places to play in the history of the league.
And I expected them to play hard, even though just because of the attitude that Campbell gives them. But for them to actually celebrate it, man, for them to actually celebrate it out there, even though they should have been down, it just kind of showed me something a little different.
And a lot of fans had traveled for that too. It was a great scene at the end of the game.
Yeah, everything about this feels different. And we're getting some interesting calls and texts about kind of when you knew it was different, when you knew that this group wasn't going to let you down, when you knew that, hey, we're legitimately going to contend for a window here. And look, I mean, here we are sitting here. I don't mean to sound like we're counting our chickens, but it feels extraordinarily credible that the Lions are a good team. They're just a good team, and that they're not going to win every game, and they'll probably lose a game or two during this season, if not 3 that you felt like they should have won because they're going to be favored a whole bunch. But that doesn't mean that they're going to let you down in the end. And I don't think last year people felt let down in the end, with the exception of how the last game played out. There's no shame in losing a close football game at San Francisco for the NFC title. It was awfully frustrating the way they did it, but it came down to them in the second half not making some plays, and maybe they had to build up some calluses of how to protect a lead on the road in a game like that. Because that second half, there were, I can think of 4 catastrophic plays that weren't difficult plays. We weren't asking Jared Goff to go 19 of 19 for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns in the second half.
I think there's something to be said for having a crushing loss to learn how to win. I think the Red Wings went through that. For years, they had gotten close, and then they finally get to the Stanley Cup in '95, had this great team, and get swept. 2 years later, they start this dynastic run of winning 3 Stanley Cups in 5 years or whatever. They had to learn. The Pistons, to go into the bad boy Pistons. Mm-hmm. I mean, they had battles. in
Step
the
by
East.
step. Yeah, you're right.
You got to beat Atlanta.
Step by step.
Got to get past Boston, and then you got to get past LA and beat LA. And they had to lose before they learned how to win.
It felt like they lost to all of those teams before they beat those
Right,
teams. And
exactly.
it was a step by step. It's an interesting point.
And Jordan did the same thing. Jordan couldn't beat the Pistons, and then finally got past that, and they had obviously their run. And the bad boy Pistons, the going to work Pistons, same thing. Had these 50-win seasons. They were good, but they weren't great. They got put over the edge when they got the Larry Brown came in, and then obviously Rasheed Wallace, and then here we go.
Okay, so with training camp underway, that means we're going to start to hear stuff about certain players. Who are you most looking forward to hearing a positive update on? Like, what will really get you fired up if you hear that this player is killing it in training camp? It's early. We know that training camp success doesn't always equate to regular season success, but these are measuring sticks. These are benchmarks along the way that could predict big things to come. If you hear this player is killing it, you'll be fired up. In fact, let's take...
Oh, my.
10 texts.
Oh, please, no more rain.
10 texts
No more
now
rain.
at 248-539-9797. Remember to sign your text and give us a reason why. We'll read the first 10 that we get. 10 texts. Which player do you want to hear is killing it in the early stages of this Lions training camp? We'll read the first 10 that come in. Remember to sign it and give a reason why you answered the question the way you did. We'll get to that coming up at 11:02. It's Carson Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket.
Brought to you by National Benefit Plans. Dan Campbell was his usual self this morning, a soundbite machine who wants the team to never slow down or rest on their laurels. A coach says that DJ Reader is healing up and getting stronger. Brian Branch and Marcus Davenport going through walkthroughs, which he says is a great sign for them. However, another handful of players will be sidelined on the NFI list, including Amik Robinson, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Carlton Davis, and Traquan Smith. Tonight could be Jack Flaherty's final start as a Tiger, depending on what the team does at the trade deadline. Right now, Sportsline has the Dodgers, Diamondbacks, and Orioles as the top teams. They could make the rental trade. The deadline itself is at 6 p.m. next Tuesday, the 30th. Tonight's start for Jack going to be at 6:40 p.m. in Cleveland. Dan Dickerson's call right here on 97.1 The Ticket. And how about this Olympic story? A soccer scandal unfolding where 2 Canadian coaches were sent home after accusations that they were spying on an opponent with drones operated by their staff. The New Zealand team spotted the flying cameras, and the Canada Olympic Committee acknowledged the incident and removed the assistants from the team. From the Corwell Health Sports Desk, I'm Chris Villar. For more, go to 97.1 The Ticket and Odyssey.com.
The Olympic Games actually start today. The opening ceremonies aren't until Friday, but there's rugby and soccer today, and Team USA takes on host country France at 3 o'clock today. I don't know if that's on TV or if it's just being streamed on Peacock, but for those who are interested, yep, our underdog soccer team who didn't do very well in Copa America is hopefully gets their act together and could make it interesting. I'd like to see them make it interesting. Gator, will you watch today at 3?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I'll have it on.
Okay.
I'll have it on. So if you have any questions tomorrow, you can
I'll have lots of questions.
Would you like me to text you updates?
No.
No? Okay.
No, that's okay.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
Yeah. Is it because you don't have Peacock? Is that what it is?
No, I've got Peacock.
You've got plans? You got something else planned? Is that what it is?
Sure.
Okay.
Anything.
Well,
it's gonna go playing trees or something. I don't know.
The good news is that if it does become a topic tomorrow, I'll be ready.
Good. Well,
I'll be ready.
Glad you'll be ready for it.
Let's go USA.
Who are they playing?
France, the host country.
Oh, France.
Yep.
Oui.
Yep.
So, how does this tournament work?
I don't know. You play games, you try and win them all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I
know how the World Cup works, but I don't. I mean, I've said this on the air 1,000 times. I love World Cup soccer, and I watch it in the group stage, and then, the teams advance, and then there's, the bracket play. But now I don't know how this works. I just know that I one of the things I do genuinely like about international soccer and when Team USA plays is it is one of the rarities where our team is a massive underdog, and we'll never do another Miracle on Ice. For those of us that lived through it, we know it probably cannot be replicated, but this feels like one field where it can be.
Could be.
Yep.
Yeah. Ish. I'm not sure which way I would like the soccer format tournament to work in the Olympics. Do I want it to work like the NCAA basketball tournament, where it's just, hey, you lose, you're out. You got to win to survive? Or is it the group play thing where the top 2 teams from each group or whatever advance and based on point differentials? And I don't know. It gets convoluted. So I'm not. That's why I ask, because I don't know how it works.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep you updated if you so choose.
That'd be.
Should I live tweet during the game?
You can do what you want if you want to live tweet, but as far as letting me know, that's unnecessary.
All right. You in the bubble? You gonna stay in the bubble?
I'm just gonna stay in the bubble, Doug. Gonna stay in the bubble.
All right. We asked for 10 texts, and we got them as it pertains to the Detroit Lions and training camp, which opens today. Who's the player you want to hear good things about that'll get you most fired up in the early stages here at training camp? Mario and Warren says Jamison Williams. He's going to have a big year, and we're already hearing so much good news about him. Brian in a car. Hey, guys, for me, I want to hear that Jack Campbell is firing on all cylinders. Casey and Hal, Broderick Martin Need depth on the line. Calvin from Warren says Terrion Arnold because that would mean we have 2 solid cornerbacks with Carlton Davis III. Aaron in Royal Oak says Jack Campbell, no doubt. If he plays well, our defense will be really good. Frank and Ipsy, Marcus Davenport would change our defense with 4 studs up front. Next text from Tom in St. Clair. Davenport, it helps solve the problem of getting to the quarterback. Dominic in Northville, Terrion Arnold because we need that lockdown corner to solidify our top-tier defense. Mark in Tecumseh, I want to hear that Sam Laporta has put on solid muscle. Micah writes in, Aleem McNeil is who I want to hear is tearing it up. It'll make our D-line take a huge step forward, especially the pass rush. There are the 10 texts. Any comments?
I think the name that makes the most sense for me to want to be interested in is Terrion Arnold or Carlton Davis, one of those 2 guys, to see if they're up to speed. But I'm not going to lie. The one I'm most interested in is James Houston.
Oh.
Being the guy on the outside. Back to form, back to terrorizing quarterbacks. And maybe he's got a couple moves under his belt now instead of the one spectacular move he's got, but he's the guy.
The candidates at the defensive end spot are, and really the backup defensive linemen in general, are really interesting when you start talking about James Houston, Levi Onwuzurike, Broderick Martin, Mekhi Wingo, Matthew Betts. You were gone. I can't remember what the topic was. You were gone a couple of weeks ago. I guess it was last week. And we had a run on Matthew Betts texts. Like a run of people excited about Matthew Betts, who had 19 sacks in the CFL.
Yeah, had a ton of sacks in the CFL last year. Was Defensive Player of the Year there. There's reason to be intrigued. Absolutely. Does that translate to the NFL? I don't know. He's had opportunities in the NFL that didn't pan out, but maybe things have clicked.
It's hard to say. It feels like most CFL experiments, and I almost feel like I'm kind of accustomed to every year there being an experimental player, like a guy who didn't play college football, or a guy who comes from the CFL, or a small school guy, or who's a dude from Army we had a couple years ago, like a safety linebacker.
Yeah, I forget. It was Evan actually hung out with him a couple times.
Did he?
Yeah.
Anyway, guys like that.
Like Jobby Nooner or something like that.
That sounds about right. There's the Lions, I feel like more years than not, have a guy like that. A kicklicious.
Right.
I mean, so this year it's Matthew Betts, the experimental prospect. And most of the time, those guys don't work out.
Not typically.
No.
But maybe he does. You don't know unless you throw him out there in practice and see what he can do. And maybe he's ahead of everybody else because he's got a motor and he's got determination and he's got a chip the size of Amon-Ra St. Brown's chip.
Yep. 248-539-9797. More feedback to the Carson Anderson inbox. Here are some doubters. Back-to-back texts. The Lions are primed for regression. They're closer to the flash-in-the-pan Jags than a dynasty. 8-9, 7-10, or 6-11 season coming. I shoot the boot guarantee. Signed. They didn't sign.
Oh, no kidding. No kidding.
You cannot shoot the boot guarantee without signing your name and giving us contact information.
That's right.
It is a worthless guarantee if we don't know who you are.
It's just a hunch.
I'd like to know what makes them closer to a flash in the pan than a dynasty. I don't think they're a dynasty, but a legit contender, I think, is the only thing people are claiming.
I think that's accurate.
But they've drafted extraordinarily well. Their young players are doing incredible things.
I mean,
there's less nonsense. What makes this feel like a flash in the pan? I'll tell you what feels like a flash in the pan. I hate to say it, and I'm loving it. It feels like the Tigers are kind of being a flash in the pan team right now. There's so many guys that are performing at a level that is way above their track record. I don't feel like anybody on the Lions needs to perform way above what they're capable of for this team to have success.
Well, hopefully the Tigers are doing what the Lions did. All these young guys are starting to get together and playing well right now for the Tigers. And it took a little bit for the Lions young players to get it together, and then once they did, they've taken off. So in year 4 of this thing, I mean, I don't know where you're seeing the drop off, or where you expect. I guess that's a great question. Where do you expect to see the drop off?
I mean,
it's a young team.
It's a young team where what has been done. I mean, maybe you could say Laporta will never do that again. I don't know. I
don't think. It was a rookie performance, and it's not like he had 1,200 yards receiving and 15 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had a really good season, and it can give more.
248. Sorry,
I was just gonna say the one thing that's going to kind of go under the radar a little bit now, but won't once the season gets going. They've kept the coordinators.
Mm-hmm.
They've kept this thing going. What was successful after Dan Campbell made the switch right away? Hey, Anthony Lynn, it's not working out. This between you and I, it's not working out.
Yep.
You can stay with the team, but you're not going to be the offensive coordinator. Once he made that switch, when he was calling the plays and then had Ben Johnson helping him out, and then turned things over to Ben Johnson, it's humming along. And the fact that Ben Johnson wanted to stay here each of the last 2 seasons when he could have taken a head coaching job, I think that speaks volumes to where they expect this thing to go. And having that continuity year in and year out is huge. It just is. And they have it obviously on the defensive side too, because Aaron Glenn's been here since day one.
Get to more of your phone calls coming up. We also have a text here that starts with "Bless your hearts."
Oh, here we go from the South.
We'll get to that coming up today at 11:20 here on 97.1 The Ticket.
So if you're interested in garage doors, like you should be, if your garage doors are all ratty and time to change them out, I got a great company for you guys to go check out. Precision Garage Door. They're awesome. Here's why they're awesome. Because they're going to work with your schedule. You can schedule an appointment on their website for a time that's going to work out for you. There's no need to call in, although you can at 1-800-DOOR-REPAIR. That works. But if you go to the website at precisiondoormi.com and schedule an appointment, you're not going to be disappointed. It's on your schedule. They're open and available, I should say, weekends at no extra charge. They offer the industry's leading warranty. And when I needed new garage doors, that's exactly who I contacted. They were amazing. John, Jeff, the whole team, so easy to work with, very professional, and that's what you want in today's day and age. Give them a call today at 1-800-DOOR-REPAIR or visit precisiondoormi.com and schedule that appointment.
Doug Harsh, Scott the Gator Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket. Open lines, 248-539-9797. Talking lots of Lions with training camp opening today. We'll get to some Tiger stuff next hour. Things still afoot, trade deadline rumors. Team continues to play well. Couldn't pull off the win last night, but have played very well leading up to the trade deadline. And there's some encouraging trends that we can get into a little bit more. But first, let's get back to your open line call. Steve is in Detroit, and he is next. Hi, Steve.
How you doing? Not to be a Debbie Downer, but I just hear too much assuredness in this upcoming Lions season. I just want to caution people. Buffalo has been good for a while. Cincinnati has been good for a while. And they have not won the Super Bowl. I would challenge you to say Buffalo and Cincinnati are better than Detroit, and they still haven't won. You can look at San Francisco. Look how long they've been good, and they still haven't won. Let's temper this with a little common sense. They had a perfect year last year. Everything went exactly right. You reclaimed a quarterback who was on the scrap heap, and that worked out. You drafted a wide receiver in the late rounds, and that worked out. Drafted a tight end, that worked out. Drafted a running back. All these things hit. You know how rare that is, that everything you do hit, and you still don't win. So let's just
hold on, Steve. Let me ask you a question. You're saying you hear too much assuredness. Isn't the assuredness centered around them contending for a Super Bowl? Hold on, Steve. Isn't it centered around them simply contending for the Super Bowl? I haven't heard assuredness that they're going to win the Super Bowl. It's about, are they a legitimate contender? Isn't that the only assuredness? They're not. They're not a legitimate contender.
I just look at it as it's too much confidence. It's just too much. And another thing they got to change that approach to coaching. Last year, you got a 17-point lead. You don't go for it. I don't care if the guy dropped the ball or not. You don't go for that. You go back to common sense football. This is not Madden. You don't have a joystick in your hand. You don't go for it on every fourth down. I don't care if it worked in the regular season. I don't care that you had.
Did you hear what Dan Campbell said about that?
Yeah, I heard.
He evaluates every season and goes back and looks and might change things depending upon what kind of team he has.
I'm just saying, it just seems like we're fans. We've already booked our Super Bowl tickets, and
absolutely
we're
not.
Beat everybody else.
And we've talked about them being contenders. Steve, who hurt you in the past?
No, it's just I'm a Lions
why
fan
you hurt
forever.
Okay, so that's it. So
remember,
it's why don't you want to just embrace what they are, which is really good right now?
Because they got to show me. 1 year doesn't show me.
Well, what about the progression to get there? To go from 3 wins and a tie to 9 wins and then to 12 and 2 playoff wins and an NFC championship berth.
I want progression. I want progression like what Tampa Bay had. Tampa Bay used to be.
So in the meantime, how are you going to watch?
Tampa Bay became a good franchise.
So how do you watch? How do you watch the games this year? You're not excited?
I'm watching it with caution. I don't want to jump in with both feet and knowing the history of this team.
But why?
A good year, a bad year. A good year, a bad year. That's been their history.
Why?
That's been their history.
Why don't you want to jump in? Why don't you want to get excited about it? Why don't you want to be chesty about this team?
Because they're going to disappoint me. I know they are. They are never going to win the Super Bowl. That's my thought. They're never going to win the Super Bowl.
So here's the thing. The biggest mistake you're making, in my opinion, and you can feel however you want about them, you are arguing that people are too chesty about winning the Super Bowl when the only arguments that seem to be made, and I can't imagine don't have validity, is that whether or not they are contenders to win the Super Bowl. Do you think they are a contender to win the Super Bowl?
At the beginning of the year, everybody is. But we're
a legitimate contender.
A
legitimate contender.
On what Yeah, I said every year everybody is.
I know, but not everybody's a legitimate contender.
Did you think last year Houston was going to do what they did? Did you think that?
Steve,
no one did.
Steve, here's the question. Do you think the Detroit Lions are a legitimate contender to win the Super Bowl?
Not win it. I think they're a legitimate playoff team. I think we're going too far to say that Oh, definitely, they're going to the Super Bowl.
That's not what we're saying. Nobody's saying that. Do you know what the word legitimate? Do you know what the words legitimate contender means? They have a realistic shot to win the Super Bowl. That's all. Do you think they have a
I don't
realistic?
believe that. I don't believe.
All right. Well, then there you go. I mean, I mean, the one thing that I feel very comfortable in saying that is this isn't simply a Detroit-centric thought. The Lions are widely considered a legitimate contender to win the Super Bowl. And of course, we don't know. Of course, every year there are surprises. But we're talking about the percentage chance that the Lions are like they've got a real legitimate shot to win the Super Bowl. This isn't fantasy. We're not hoping and praying.
If you ask anybody who are the top 4 contenders in the NFC, top 4 contenders to win the NFC, you will hear Philadelphia, San Francisco, Detroit, and I don't know who else, actually, because Dallas is a bit of a mess right now. But those are 3 legitimate contenders from the NFC. And if you win the NFC, you're playing for a Super Bowl.
We haven't had one call of anybody that has too much assuredness, or one text. Have we gotten one call or text that with anybody with too much assuredness that they're going to win the Super Bowl?
No, I'm looking to see if any Martin is online, and I don't see one, so we're okay.
Well, there was the one Martin who always thought they were going to win the Super Bowl. But, yeah, this is about contending. Are they a legitimate contender? And I don't think it's out of bounds. We talk about the guardrails. We put up guardrails and try and stay realistic. We're not crashing through guardrails thinking they have a shot to win the Super Bowl. We're crashing through guardrails if you think the Tigers have a shot to win the World Series. That would be crashing through guardrails. 248-539-9797. We'll get to your phone calls and feedback coming up. It's Carson Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket. Doug Harsh, Scott Anderson, 97 a ticket. So with training camp opening, we went over a whole bunch of stuff in hour one. Now in hour two, a lot of interaction with the fans. Regarding this coming season, I just had a caller, Steve, in Detroit, who thinks that there's too much assuredness that the Lions are going to win the Super Bowl. And I don't sense that Detroit is overly confident they're going to win the Super Bowl. I think Detroit is confident that their team is a legit contender. It's not a stretch for them to play in the Super Bowl. It's not a stretch for them to win the Super Bowl. It will be disappointed if they don't win a playoff game. It would be disappointing if they don't make the playoffs. It'd be disappointing if they don't win the division. But I think the arguments that are made are not crashing through the guardrails. Paul, who's producing today, made a good point during the break.
Clean it up, please. Paul used some salty language.
He did. Steve,
very salty language.
Steve didn't offer one football reason why the Lions weren't going to be good.
Paul was a little more colorful.
Yes, he was.
With a descriptive word before football.
Paul's not even a Lions fan.
He's not.
No. But he's
I don't
right.
think Paul likes Detroit, period.
That's not true. 248-539-9797. Let's go to Dave in Clinton Township here on 97 a ticket. Hello, Dave.
Hey there. I think Steve had some. I think his parents told him there was no Santa Claus way too soon because that guy just got depression all over him. So I'll give you a football reason. The Lions were one stop away from going to the Super Bowl to play a team they have already beaten. So right now they are one stop better than they were last year.
I mean, it's hard to argue that they haven't upgraded the defense. It's hard to argue that. And everything didn't go right last year, as Steve argued. The offensive line
got... It was a culmination, by the way. Everything he said was a culmination. It wasn't one season's worth. Like, Jared Goff was a reclamation project, really between his ears. It wasn't anything else. He always had the skill, but clearly his previous coach threw him under the bus. This coaching staff embraced him, and halfway through the first season, he got much better. And then, obviously, the last couple of years have been reinforced with that. Amon-Ra St. Brown has been great from moment one. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, these aren't things that just happened last year. Drafting the running back last year, sure, but they paired him with a veteran running back that did very well. I just didn't agree.
And you mentioned Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's one reason to pump the brakes, I guess, we got to give Steve on this one is the receiving room isn't as good as it was. The known receiving room isn't as good as it was last year. I wish we had kind of a better replacement for Reynolds.
But I'm not sure of that because what we're getting is full-time JMO.
That's why I said known.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. It's okay. You were replacing Josh Reynolds with full-time JMO and maybe more of DPJ. Or there can still be a move that happens. But, yeah, to your point, I get it. I think there's some apprehension about the wide receiver room, wondering if it's good enough. Is it as good as it was last year? I think it's got potential to be explosive. If J-Mo's as good as advertised right now?
That's one of the bigger ifs here, right? It's we don't know that J-Mo is going to be as good as his offseason hype projects him to be. It feels like it's not a stretch, but we don't know.
Apparently he booted on the field.
And if Ben Johnson's listening, if I could say one thing, hopefully he's listening, I would like to see Montgomery and Gibbs in the backfield at the same time.
Thank you for the phone call, Dave. 248-539-9797. Can we circle back to what you just said?
Yeah, Kyle Meinke, who covers the Lions, mentioned that Jamison Williams briefly left day one of training camp after vomiting several times early in practice. He told me he's fine, just ate the wrong thing for breakfast.
Okay. 248-539-9797. Let's go to Steve in Rochester Hills. You're next on 97.1. Hi, Steve.
Now, this is not the Steve from Detroit, so let's keep that.
Fair enough.
Steve from Rochester, thank you. I appreciate that, Gator. You know, right now I just want to give Steve a hug. I think he needs a hug right now. I think that a lot of things probably happened in his life, and he probably got burned by the Lions. I mean, who didn't, right? But this is, even if, guys, you got to be excited about last year wasn't all smoke and mirrors. If it was all smoke and mirrors, I'd say, yeah, you're right. Or if they got smoked against San Francisco like we did against Washington in 91, absolutely. You don't know what you have. You don't, that was a telling point for them. And the key thing is with any team is injuries. If you can get through the injuries and still be solid, you got a long ways to go. This team has so many more positives than negatives. It is about, fourth down and field goals. All comes down to guys that you can trust to do certain things. If you don't trust a guy that can take a 55-yard field goal, are you really going to feel confident putting them out there? No. So, I never think we're going to win the Super Bowl or even get to the Super Bowl because there's so many things that have to go right. But that poor guy, Steve, I'm seriously, my one good eye started to cry. I really felt bad for him. And I really, I hope that, what I think sometimes, though? I think he's hoping that it'll happen so he can say, I told you so, more so than hoping that it doesn't happen and come back and say, I was wrong. The Lions did really do a really good job, and they did make it. Because I'm going to be honest, unless they go to the Super Bowl and come maybe a hair away from winning or winning it, he's like that one guy that used to call all the time and hate Stafford, even if Stafford had 500 yards and won the game with one broken leg and his arm in a sling. So, you can't live like that. I'm really optimistic, but I know anything can happen. But I'm going to enjoy this ride, guys, because look at the Pistons. They went to how many Eastern Conference Finals, and now we can't even sniff 30-game winning seasons. The Red Wings haven't been there. The Tigers haven't been there. Come on, guys, enjoy this while you can because we're not guaranteed, as we don't know when we're going to die. Hey, we don't know how long this is going to last. Enjoy it.
I got dark. Steve, thank you for the phone call. I say this all the time. I honestly mean you're entitled to feel however you want, and he is as well. His argument, I think, the one thing I'll say, and I don't know who he's talking to. When in the 4 minutes, and we had him on the air for a long time, the 4 minutes he was on the air, he didn't cite who he hears too much assuredness that they're going to win the Super Bowl. I don't think it's coming from the callers to the show. I don't think it's coming from the hosts of the show. I think it's an assuredness that we got a credible team that can win the Super Bowl. I think as far as we've gone, I know that as far as you and I have gone, and occasionally we get a text. Occasionally we get a text that the Tigers are going to win the World Series. And if we mine enough, we'll probably get a text that the Lions are going to win the World Series. Honestly, so I see. But on it, he's arguing that there's too much assuredness that they're going to win the Super Bowl. I haven't heard it at all.
No, I don't see that. I think people feel confident this is a contending team. Mm-hmm. Why? Because they got there last year to the NFC Championship game, fell short, had the lead at halftime, a substantial lead at halftime, and it fell short because of mistakes in the second half. It wasn't by accident that they got there. This is a good football team. It's a well-crafted, well-put-together, well-assembled football team that in the offseason seems like they've improved on most of their weaknesses. Maybe not all, but damn near most of them.
The weirdest thing is one of the youngest teams in the league that if I were in a town with a less than great football team, I'd be like, God, I wish we could be like the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
Because the evidence stacks up that the guy that's running the Lions knows how to grab players out of the draft and that the head coach knows how to squeeze the most out of them. I would be hoping that our team could act like the Lions. And we've spent a lot of years wishing we were Baltimore, wishing we were Seattle, wishing we were New England, wishing we were Pittsburgh. And right now, we might actually have one of those teams that people in other towns are envious of. 248-539-9797. Ken's in Clinton Township. Hi, Ken.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
So here's where I'm at this year. Last year, I'm still trying to figure out whether it was luck or whether it was skill. And what I mean by that was, and I called last year when we were talking about the Lions and how they were going to do. You remember the first game, I understand we won, but we only won by a point. So I know there's a lot of that you almost win, you almost lose kind of a thing. But I think it's just really tough to get back. I kind of almost feel like last year almost was our year. And now with the harder schedule and with everything, this year for me is really going to be have we arrived? Are we going to be able to be in contention?
So the true measuring stick is it wasn't going to Kansas City and winning against the defending Super Bowl champion. Had they blown Kansas City out, you would have bought in.
Yeah. Actually,
Dude, you set that bar really high. I mean, you set that bar extraordinarily high.
Well, but, it was, again, it's the luck of the draw, right? I mean, this year, if a couple games don't go our way, maybe we don't get out of our division. So I'm hoping that last year wasn't like more luck than skill, and that what we put together is, now we're not at the bottom of the barrel. Now we're going to be in the middle. We're going to be in the hunt for multiple years. Maybe we win this year and we lose the playoff game, or maybe next year we just miss. Or
well, there are no
whatever,
guarantees. You're right about that. I just think if going to Kansas City and winning on the road on banner night, you weren't impressed because it was, quote, only by a point, feels like where you've set the bar for credibility is extraordinarily high.
Well, both teams played without some key players in that game, but both teams did. I know everybody wants to focus on the Kansas City aspect of it, but truth is, Lions were out some big guns in that game. So if you weren't impressed with the 12-5 year, the 2 playoff wins, the fact that they had the 17-point lead going into the second half of the NFC Championship game, I don't know what to tell you. I guess you have to be you have to have some really deep-seated hurt.
Well, you know what it is?
And pain.
It's what the organization has done historically, that even a good season and a very credible win on the road against Kansas City wasn't enough. He needed them to blow them out.
But then if you look, I'm just trying to be objective about this and say, okay, this is the team they had last year. They got there, fell short. And what happened in the offseason? Did they improve themselves in the offseason?
Yes, they did.
And if you can objectively say, yes, they did, then shouldn't they be as good as they were?
What about last year? It was fluky, by the way.
I don't know.
They went out and did exactly what they did the year before when they got hot and finished 9-8. And they carried it over to last year and went 12-5. Their offense couldn't be stopped. They wanted to run the ball. They ran the ball. When they wanted to pass the ball, they passed the ball on whoever they wanted to.
It wasn't a fluke.
Why are fans calling in and acting like this is like, oh, well, a lot of stuff went our way. We're just going to get lucky again.
Fluky? A ball going off someone's face mask for a 50-yard completion setting up a critical touchdown was a fluky bounce.
Here, and maybe that's it, because there weren't enough of the fluky plays against the Lions with the weird luck, the 65-yard field goal or whatever and stuff like that.
The crossbar goes straight up in the air and trickles over.
They survived that stuff last year. Like, they were able to survive that Justin Jefferson went for 400 yards or whatever, in a couple of games. Despite the fact that they gave up massive yards to top receivers down the stretch, they still won those games.
The Dallas game was completely botched for them, and they still made it playoffs, and they still won 2 playoff games.
Exactly, right. And the other thing with, I think the Lions fans that are down on this or are apprehensive about wrapping their arms and believing in it, maybe it comes down to, they lost to Green Bay on Thanksgiving, and those games against the Bears, I mean, they can't handle a running quarterback. Okay, well, let's look at what's happened now. That running quarterback not there anymore.
No,
I could have saw maybe if they had an electric run last year because they had like a wildcat year like the Dolphins where they completely came up with some nonsense offense that caught the league by storm and they won some games they shouldn't have won. No, they just won games because they played great football and they didn't make mistakes and they beat teams.
They were better.
Now, see, he's a Dolphin fan. And he
Paul's fired up.
Hey, it's Doug for the University of Michigan Credit Union, my new credit union. I joined because UMCU team members work really hard to ensure exceptional member experiences, and I had one of those meeting with them recently. They work hard at it. It doesn't happen by accident. It starts with great leadership, and they have some exciting news to share with you. UMCU is teaming up with Will Johnson, national champion, cornerback, All-American, who is a Michigan defensive MVP, heck, a Big Ten defensive MVP candidate, and you can score big with MVP checking. This is an unbeatable offer for USCU. MVP checking from the University of Michigan Credit Union gives you a chance to intercept your debt by becoming a member and opening an MVP checking account. Set up direct deposit, transfer your existing loans from other financial institutions, and bam, just like that, you'll get 2% off your current interest rate. This is huge. It adds up real quick, 2% off. Intercept your debt and become a member today. Just visit umcu.org. Some restrictions apply. Visit website for full details. Insured by NCUA. Visit University of Michigan Credit Union, proud partner of Michigan Athletics. Our show kind of got hijacked. By Steve in Detroit. I'd mentioned we got a text. Bless your guys' hearts.
Yeah, right.
It's so cute that Lions fans think they can talk Super Bowl. Get back to the NFC Championship again before you even start talking. Got to prove it wasn't a fluke. Well, unnamed texter, bless your heart. Because it's not Lions fans that are talking Super Bowl. It's the country talking Super Bowl for the Lions. This is not a pipe dream. This is not fantasy. This is not if they get these 35 breaks. This is a team that's got a shot, certainly to get back to the NFC Championship game. So we're not talking about the Tigers winning the World Series. We're not talking about the Red Wings winning the Stanley Cup. We're not talking about the Pistons making a play-in game. We're talking about stuff that could happen. So bless your heart in thinking it's just Lions fans.
I agree with Paul's earlier assessment. What was fluky about last season?
Don't know.
I mean, after you get past the first 6 or 7 wins, is it fluky? You get to 8 wins, you tie the wins from 9. 9 wins was what you did the year before. Mm-hmm. Is it fluky? Still in the lead in the division. You've got teams that are chasing. You got to knock them down, and you do. Is it fluky? You win your 12th game of the regular season. You're crowned the division champs, but now you got to exercise the demons of Matthew Stafford coming to your house. Can you do that? They did. Was it still fluky? Then you got to back that up because you got to beat Tampa. And some people might say that win over Tampa, that was fluky, right? Because Baker Mayfield just missed some open receivers, and look how well Baker was playing the rest of the year after that, and he was. And then they beat Tampa Bay. Was that fluky? And then they got out to a 17-point lead in the first half at San Francisco. Now, which was fluky? That they got out to the 17-point lead, or the confluence of mistakes that happened in the second half?
There were some very weird bounces.
Is it more fluky that you drop a pass on 4th and 3 for the first down? Is it more fluky that you then drop another pass that would have been a first down on 3rd and long? Is it more fluky that you had a simple exchange of a handoff between a quarterback and a running back that ends up in a fumble and turnover?
Are you calling San Francisco's win fluky?
Is it more fluky that a deep pass in a post goes off the face mask of a defender, tips up in the air, and then is caught by the wide receiver who then corrals it and then lands at the 1-yard line? Are those because that's fluky. That I'll agree with. All that stuff together to happen in the same game, in the same half, in the same 10-minute span? Yeah, that's fluky. Oh, wait, that happened against them. What was the fluky stuff that went for them?
I'm sure there's something we're not thinking of.
And surely there's plays here and there, but I'm just making the point that, I mean, after you've gone away with 12 regular season wins, 2 playoff wins, and then the stuff that really was fluky was in the second half of the NFC Championship game after you built a 17-point lead. Why were you not buying in?
248-539-9797. Sean in West Bloomfield, you're next on 97.1. Hi, Sean.
Oh, boys, I've tangled with so many of these Steve types over the years. It's frustrating. But, I do think it does start with the Lions hurting their feelings. I agree with that, Gator. Yeah. But I think it's even worse than that. I think it's ego now. So these guys loved when they had you several years ago and you expressed any optimism, right? Because then they could prove that they could see through the blue, Honolulu blue smoke screen, right? And they're smarter than you. That's a good feeling for them that they can't let go, right? I mean, they got to let that go now, and that's tough, I think. But the way I handle them now is just, look, the roster's loaded. It is. Tell me where it's weak, right? I mean, so where is our roster weak right now? And even from a depth standpoint, I think the secondary got revamped. That's a question mark maybe, but they did everything they could to address it, right? We may be one pass rusher short, but they generated tons of pressure other ways last year. I watched them do it, right? So the receiver room, I'm sorry, that to me is the number one area. I don't think J-Mo, he's a thin-frame speedster that's going to take the top off the defense, but he's not that 6'4", 6'5" guy Josh Reynolds was. We need that guy. F them picks. Let's go do it. And let's win this thing.
I mean, right now they're considered a contender. If they were to go address the edge rusher or a wide receiver with bringing a credible vet that's made plays, Sean, they'd probably go from being considered a contender to being considered the favorite.
Devontae Adams.
Yeah. Well,
we can absorb him for 2 years. How about Cortland Sutton from the Broncos? I mean, make a trade. Like the fact that we could even.
Oh, we lost you. Appreciate the phone call. But yes, I have no issue with them making a go-for-it move. It sounds to me like their approach is we are going to see what we need and then try and address it at the trade deadline.
Yeah, and if it's receiver,
but maybe even before the season, too. They're trying to maintain some flexibility.
If it's a receiver that you're going to go after, I feel like it'd be better to do that before the season, not the trade deadline, just because of the way that Jared Goff has worked, where it seems like it takes him some time to get to know the players he's working with build up that rapport, build up the chemistry, the trust.
Yeah.
And if you do that, after week 8 or whatever the trade deadline is, it doesn't leave as much time as if you do something now. They can do something now. I mean, they've got some cap space, and teams are looking to jockey, and some teams are looking to jettison some salary or whatnot, and things can happen.
Let's go to Justin in Madison Heights. You're next. What's up, Justin?
Hey guys, I was thinking about saving my call to talk baseball, but as everyone else has called in, caller Steve got me a little fired up. And I understand being guarded, right? We all have to be guarded to a certain degree, especially with things in life that can hurt us. But sports is supposed to be that escape. It's supposed to be that excitement, that thing you look forward to. And if you're always guarded against what couldn't happen, then how are you actually enjoying the sport? And Gator, when I called in earlier this year about the Tigers, I had gotten back into baseball, and I was kind of a little down on the Tigers. Gator, you said something to me that really stuck with me, and it changed my entire perspective of this Tiger season. You said, just have fun, just enjoy it. Watch the young players, watch the development. And I try to take that mentality in all sports now. It's like there's a lot of buzz that we could be we are legit contenders in terms of the Lions. You got to enjoy it, man, because if you're not enjoying this, you're never going to enjoy anything.
I don't understand the mentality. People are like, well, I'm going to wait. You're going to wait for what? Because you're missing the fun of the ride. Well, and you know what? If they fail, it's going to suck for a while. But it's not like it's going to be life-changingly suck.
It depends.
It's going to change.
I will say it depends how they fail. If failing is missing the playoffs, that will be extraordinarily disappointing, and it will make us feel like maybe we don't have a coach with the superpower that we've been lacking. Because we played the Dan Campbell soundbite. I want to play it again in the noon hour as to what makes him the kind of guy that is coaching all the time against a letdown because of something that happened earlier in his career. We'll play that at 12:05. Get to more of your phone calls. Carson Anderson, 97.1.
Get your big jug of water there?
I do. Spirited conversation today with the Lions opening training camp. And look, some people are still, look, what we got was some feedback and one phone call that came from a very familiar place. We've had the Lions last year referenced as fluky. And we had one guy who all but said the one thing that always got said about our football team. But he didn't give one football reason why he thought, and his wording was, he's hearing too much assuredness that they're going to win the Super Bowl. Well, I can't speak for who he runs with and what's being said to him in his circles. If he hangs out with a bunch of people that are sure the Lions are going to win the Super Bowl, I think that's probably crashing through guardrails. I can't say that I am sure of much in the NFL, to be honest with you, because anything can happen. But you start talking about percentages. What is the percent that the Lions are going to have a winning record? Pretty good. What is the percent chance that they're going to win the division? It's healthy. What is the chance that they can win a couple playoff games, or maybe one playoff game, and make it back to the NFC title game? They're not bad. They're better than most. They're better than most. And he thinks we're talking with too much confidence. And I would feel that way if there were some critical injury questions that they had right now, and there's a couple things that are lingering. But Dan Campbell, when he addressed the media this morning, said that everybody's on track to be back. And then he talked about coaching against a letdown. And this is what I mentioned. This is the third cut, Paul. What I mentioned and what we played earlier in the show. Why Dan Campbell coaches so hard against a letdown. And he draws from something that happened early in his career. What he's referencing is, as a player in 2000, he was on a Giants team that won the division at 12-4. Won 2 playoff games, including blasting Minnesota in the NFC title game, 41-0. They went to the Super Bowl and they lost to that Ravens team. And apparently they went through the motions a little bit in training camp and went 7-9 in 2001. That was Dan Campbell this morning, and why he is working so hard and is not going to let up. He drew from something early in his career. Now, that doesn't mean the ball's always going to bounce your way and that guys are going to stay healthy, but you're talking about trying to limit the chances of a letdown. Love the approach of the head coach here. Love it.
Yeah, speaking from experience, that's big. That's big. He's been there. He's done that. He's seen the downside of it, and he's not going to let his team forget about it. But the other thing is that this team's got nothing to rest on. They got a taste now. They got a hunger. They've had playoff success. They've done what Lions teams haven't done in 60 years, win 2 playoff games in the same year. So to get that close to winning it all and not doing it, it's got to burn them. It absolutely has to burn them, and that's motivation. All you need is a little spark of motivation, and they don't have a spark. They've got a bonfire of motivation.
248-539-9797. Feedback coming into the Carson Anderson inbox. Dan Campbell came from the Sean Payton tree and saw what and how he did things that resulted in a lot of successes. So he was hired for this and his vision to make Detroit great. Ryan and Houghton said, this is really new territory. When was the last time the Lions made the playoffs in back-to-back seasons? Actually asking the question, no smarm. It was 94 and 95, part of a stretch where they made the playoffs 3 years in a row, 93, 94, and 95. They lost all 3 times, but they made it 3 straight times.
Very years.
Yep. How about when Dan Campbell did burpees with the squad during his first training camp to show he wasn't just talk?
Did them again today.
Did he?
Yeah.
He was, I mean, we were talking about how when he first got hired and he took the podium and gave the biting kneecaps, and there was got a lot of feedback saying there's been no successful coaches like this guy. And now when he talks, I mean, Detroiters listen. He's really got people on board. Not everybody, as we have discovered today. Let's go to Greg in Detroit. You're on 97 on a ticket. Hey, Greg.
Hey, guys. How you guys doing?
Good, Greg.
Good. First of all, I want to say thank you, Sheila. And then secondly, I want to tell you guys, thank you guys for making me an educated fan and not an emotional fanatic.
Right. Glad to help.
I appreciate that. Hey, yeah, it does. Thanks to you guys. And also, I really don't. I think what it is going on with the fans. Now, I'm coming from Monty Clark fan. To lose against San Francisco. That was the beginning of my Lions hurt, and I get their hurts because we have been hurt for a very long period of time. However, and I still think people have got SOL out of their mouths, but they haven't got it out of their guts. And that's where it starts. It left my mouth and my gut 2 seasons ago at the beginning of the season when we played the Eagles, and we had the potential to almost score 50 points, and the Eagles had just came out of being in the Super Bowl, and that just woke me up, and I was in great expectancy of that. And that's when we had just Jamal Williams, and now we got 2,000-yard running backs. Are you kidding? We have a mature Jamal Williams who had to Jamo, who could have scored 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. So if you guys he's here. Forget that. He's finally here, a full season, and what he did against San Francisco, he could have had 3 touchdowns. That's amazing. And we have a signed quarterback that knows that we love him, and he's a calm, cool assassin in Jared Goff. Now I don't have to live vicariously through any other quarterback. I don't have to live through Montana. I don't have to live through Favre. I don't have to live through Kurt Warner. I live through my quarterback here at the Lions. And I'm expecting Super Bowl. I'm expecting nothing. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to get out the way. The remedy to the Lions' third quarter is because we have such a high-powered offense is a hurry-up offense. We have the ability to methodically march down the field, so I wasn't really worried about the defense because we can eat up clock by methodically marching down the field. And something that the Lions didn't do a lot, which I wish they'd have done, they have a great hurry-up offense. And that is the remedy to that third quarter. I'm telling you.
The funny thing is, hurry-up offense isn't – when I talk to players about that, the hurry-up offense takes a toll on your linemen. Teams don't like to use it unless they have to. If they have to, they'll use it, but it kills your offensive line. To be sprinting the line of scrimmage, snap, go, sprint again, snap, go, sprint again, snap, go.
You have to be conditioned to do that.
Yeah, and it's. I mean, you mix it up occasionally, maybe, but I don't think it can become a regular part of what you do.
Not when you've got a center like Ragnow that you're managing every game because he's so good, but he's in so much pain and he's going to miss the majority of practices. You don't do an offense like that for a long period of time.
MLB Insider giving the very latest on Tiger trade possibilities at this hour. You will hear it this hour here on Carson Anderson on 97.1 The Ticket.
Can't find a car dealership open on Saturdays? Well, Sarah Chevrolet Southfield is here for you. They're open every Saturday, not just for sales, but for service as well. And if you're servicing your car, they've got loaner vehicles available to keep you on the move. In fact, their service technicians, they work in an air-conditioned environment, which is key because they're not sweating that hot box, which could affect their work. Not at all. Their service department is very happy, and they work awesomely in this environment, and it really helps the tech stay focused on your vehicle, and that's what's most important. And if you're looking for a new Chevy, Well, Sarah Chevrolet Southfield has one of the largest selections of new vehicles in Southeast Michigan. With over 60 new demos available, you can purchase a new vehicle for thousands less than employee pricing. Not eligible for employee pricing? Sarah Chevrolet Southfield has you covered. All new 2024 vehicles will be sold at employee pricing for everyone. Get the most bang for your buck at Sarah Chevrolet Southfield with one of the best selections of used cars in the state while getting the most for your trade-in. Go see the team at Sarah Chevrolet Southfield. They're at Telegraph and 696, and they've helped me with my cars, and I know they're going to take great care of you as well. Go see the Sarah Chevrolet Southfield team today, and they're going to make a deal that you just can't resist. Sarah Chevrolet Southfield, where unbeatable service meets exceptional selection. They're open every Saturday just for you.
Doug Carr, Scott Anderson, 97 The Ticket. Lions on the practice field today. Training camp is open. Yesterday it was the weigh-ins. There was install. There was conditioning tests. There's an injury update today. Dan Campbell expects everybody who's been hurt. They're on track to be back for the season, including DJ Reader. Brian Branch and Marcus Davenport were on the field for walkthroughs today. Look, it's an exciting time, and they'll play a football game 2 weeks from tomorrow I think the first day the training camp is open is Saturday, and they have new stands put up. They've got a double-decker tent. They got
awnings over the bleacher seats to keep people, well, as cool as you can be, I guess. At least give them some shade, hopefully.
Highly anticipated season, to say the least. And, we opened the show by saying, are you ready for this? And if you, we got a few people that have come from a place that they're not ready for this. They're clearly not accepting that the Lions are a Super Bowl contender, which is, I think, the extent of the realistic expectations. What is a Super Bowl contender? That's a team that it feels like it's not a stretch at all to say that they can win the division and they can win playoff games. If you are capable of winning playoff games, which they were last year, and it's hard to argue that they don't have more talent this year, then it feels like a very safe, not ridiculous prediction. Some people aren't there yet. 248-539-9797. Back to your phone calls. Josiah is next on 97.1 The Ticket. Hi, Josiah.
Hey, how you doing?
Good,
right.
Thank you.
Good. Hey, I just wanted to go over a couple of stuff on why I do think that the Lions, they're set up for success this year. If you look at all of the best players on our defense, we got Brian Branch, Aleem McNeil Hutchinson. They're all on their rookie deals. You look at offense. We got Penne, Amon-Ra. I don't think their new cap hits are going in this year. Gibbs, Laporta. All of our best players are on either rookie or team-friendly deals. If we're going to make noise, this is going to be the year to do it.
There's a lot of, the way that they have drafted allows them to have very productive players who they don't have to break the bank yet. There's going to be some really difficult decisions coming forward. I mean, if you look at San Francisco, they're basically facing the fact that they're going to have to lose their leading receiver.
Yeah.
And we're going to face that reality. We just don't have to face it for a couple years.
And that's why this is the year, or not necessarily just this year, but maybe this year, next year, after these next 2 years, we're going to have to start pick and choosing. We're not going to be able to pick up free agents like DJ Reader because we're going to have to, retain our own guys. But, our biggest loss last year, Josh Reynolds, who really cares? We have people who are going to replace him. We have plenty of receiving options. If anything, I think if we're going to make a midseason move, we should go after another pass rusher because that was our biggest weakness last year, in my opinion.
Well, it could also be the biggest gain. If James Houston is what he was at the end of his rookie season, that's huge. And you add to that with some depth, and who knows, Marcus Davenport, he's on the PUP list right now, but he should be back soon. But that's another guy that will help the competition there and keep that other side of the offensive line honest while the left side has to worry about Aiden Hutchinson. I think that defensive end position could be a huge plus for the Lions this year.
248-539-9797. Varen in Troy, you're on 97.1 The Ticket. Hi, Varen.
Hey, guys. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we got you.
All right. So, first of all, you guys over in Liontown have a lot of reasons to be confident in your team. I mean, the expectation is insanely high. And I wanted to discuss the man under center for you guys because if you guys remember me, I'm sure if you remember me, I think you know the one quarterback who I think incredibly high of. And watching that quarterback, I've seen a lot of similarities in Goff to that quarterback. I think I would put Goff as I'd say the 12th best quarterback because he can move the football down the field very well, in my opinion. But there have been years where the running game has not quite been to the level, or honestly, not even good in any way, shape, or form. And when that running game has been bad, I feel that those are some of Jared Goff's worst seasons.
Right. Is running game bad for the Lions right now?
Not now. But I'm just making a point about Goff. Now, I'm not the team. Yeah, I'm just making a point about Goff and why I put him in like a 12th spot. It's just about Goff, not the overall team right now.
But your point is that he needs to have a running game to be effective. Well, they've got a running game, so he is effective.
They do, yeah.
So what's the problem?
I'm not going to deny that point, but I'm just like saying that I'm just giving like what I think about Goff and just a potential pushback, which probably won't happen. But that's just my opinion on Goff.
So you're saying if Jared Goff doesn't have something that they have, he won't be as effective?
Well, he has that now, but like if somehow it gets switched, I'm just giving you I'm not making a point about the Lions. I'm just making a point about Jared Goff. The Lions are probably one of the 3 best teams in the NFL. But I'm making a point about how Goff where I think of him and, where sometimes he's great, where sometimes he struggles. Having watched Kirk Cousins for so long. That's all.
Thanks.
Almost got through it without the name.
Yeah, I would agree that if the Lions lose some things that they have right now, it will hurt the team.
Yeah.
He called up to make the point that if the Lions lose some things that they have now,
the Goff won't be as good.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
That's one of the things we like about this team is that they're young. They've got these guys together. There's a running back tandem that is really, really good. And one of those guys is a second-year player who had an outstanding rookie season. Yeah, okay. They can run the ball. You know what else they can do? They can throw the ball. You know why? Because the quarterback can throw. Because the quarterback's got time to throw.
So that fan's biggest issue with the Lions is an alternate universe reality coming onto us and changing the way things are currently at.
Yeah.
That could really ruin the Lions season if an alternate reality overtakes us.
If we take 2020 Jared Goff and put him into 2024 season, the Lions could be in trouble. Provided, of course, they don't have a running game, which they do. But, hey, I think Varen wanted to start ranking quarterbacks and find some way to throw Captain Kirk ahead of him. Not up in here. Good luck with that.
Steve in St. Clair Shores. What's up, Steve?
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hey.
I have a question for you guys. How good do you think this Lions secondary could be this year? Could it be a shutdown secondary? What do you think?
Well, I wouldn't expect shutdown, but can they be – how about this? Can they be average?
I think they're better than average.
I don't know if they are or aren't because we haven't seen any of these guys play here in a Lions uniform. Carlton Davis certainly played in a Tampa uniform. When he was healthy, he was good, but can he stay on the field? We haven't seen Terry and Arnold play other than college. And – some of the other guys, it's just varying degrees of experience. I'm encouraged by what they've done because I think that they have improved the secondary dramatically. But we're talking about what was a bad secondary. How good are they? I'll be happy if they're average.
I think there's a chance that they're going to be good, okay, above the midway point in the league. But most importantly is that they are better. If they had a better secondary last year, they would have had a better chance to win that last game against San Francisco.
I'll put it this way, Steve. I'm really encouraged to see what they can do between weeks 5 and week 10. Evaluate the secondary after 5 weeks and where are they? Do they need to improve on this and that? And then how have they improved by week 10 or by week 12? Are they vastly improved? Are these rookies picking things up? Rakestraw and Arnold, are they on the field constantly with Brian Branch and these guys making plays everywhere? Or is there still a lot of work to be done, a steeper learning curve? We don't know because they've got so many young players on the team.
Right, because they got to play against Minnesota and Chicago with these decent receivers, and I'm just wondering if they can cover them. And I think they can.
Well, I hope they can.
Thank you for the phone call. All right, shifting gears here a little bit. Interesting positive note on the Pistons. Interesting positive note on the Red Wings, and an MLB insider talks about Skubal trade possibilities today. An update. We will get to that next here on 97.1 The Ticket.
Look, these days it's going to be really hard to find reliable service. So when you find it, you want everybody to know about it. Here it is. Precision Garage Door. All right, I've had issues with my garage doors over the years, and I've called Precision. They've come out. They've explained to me, here's what we can do for you. And what was best about it is they did it on my schedule. You can schedule your appointment on their website for a time that works for your schedule. How's that for customer service? That's awesome. Not only that, weekdays they're available at no extra charge, and they offer the industry's leading warranty. All calls are answered 24/7. In fact, if you mention 97.1 The Ticket, they're going to waive your service fee. Again, they're all about service, customer service, and the service that they provide. They are awesome. Give them a call today at 1-800-DOOR-REPAIR or visit precisiondoormi.com and schedule that appointment.
So, Gator, we promised some stuff here. Still changing gears as we've had 2.5 hours of Lions talk here on the Karsch and Anderson program with practice starting today, training camp. Exciting times. Gator, there is an interesting list put out by The Athletic. It's by their hockey experts ranking your current goaltending, okay? 32 teams in the league, where you rank in your current goaltending and your future prospects, okay? So where you rank now and what you have waiting in the wings in your system. Where do you think the Red Wings' current goaltending ranks in the NHL?
I would say probably in the 20s.
Okay. You want to just throw a specific number?
22.
22. Okay. Where do you think their future goaltending ranks in the NHL?
I would guess higher than that. They've got a couple of prospects that are kind of highly thought of. 12.
Okay. According to The Athletic, the current goaltending situation for the Detroit Red Wings ranks 32nd.
Oh, boy.
It's one of their insiders. The Red Wings enter 24-25 with 4 different goalies with extensive NHL experience. Cam Talbot is coming off a strong statistical season, but he did it behind a staunch Kings defense that tends to inflate goaltending numbers. Just ask Ottawa how Carpaccio went. Detroit has some incredibly exciting goalie prospects, but the current situation doesn't inspire the same excitement. Future, number 1.
Number 1.
The Red Wings are the only team in the league with 2 goalies I believe are both top 10 goalie prospects in the sport. They are also 2 very different goalies, with Sebastian Cosa's size, fire, athleticism, and raw potential contrasted against Trey Augustine's stoic, cerebral calm and control. I'd be surprised if both don't become 1A, 1B types, and the Red Wings don't eventually have a tough decision to make on whether or not to turn over the net to 2 young goalies. Colgate's Carter Galanda and 2024 fourth rounder Landon Miller could give them some organizational depth as well. I don't see recently acquired Gage Alexander as much. So the worst currently, the best in the future. It's kind of interesting.
Well, I think I think both are inflated in the wrong directions there. I with my take on saying 22 and 12, and it's just throwing it out there against the wall, but I don't think this is the worst goaltending tandem in the league. When you look at Alex Lyon and Cam Talbot, I can appreciate that the LA Kings played a stronger style of defense that's going to help out the goaltender. Mm-hmm. And I expect the Red Wings to play a stronger style of defense with some of this turnover, because they're getting guys that are going to play every day that are more defensive defensemen. So that should be better. And I think Cam Talbot still has something left. The numbers he put up last year are on par. They're actually the same numbers that he's put up for his entire career. He's been a really solid goaltender throughout his career. And he and Alex Lyon, it doesn't have to be a goalie 1 and goalie 2. They can share the load equally here, and they can both benefit from that because they may have been overworked, both of them, last year.
I just find the rankings to be funny.
It's funny. Yeah, 32 and 1.
Currently, worst situation. Future, best situation. Next, the Pistons. This is an interesting note. According to Ben Fox, who is a sports betting reporter, worked for ESPN and VSIN, he tweets out the Detroit Pistons over 24.5 is the most bet NBA season win total at BetMGM this offseason. 95% of the bets and 97% of the money are on the over 24.5. Wow. Now, I don't think the Pistons fans themselves are the ones that are driving this. I don't think Pistons fans are particularly inspired by the offseason to the point where they would bet the over. I don't have high expectations for Ron Holland impacting this coming season. After watching him in Summer League, I kind of went the other way. I don't think he's a bad project and long-term, but I don't have huge expectations for Ron Holland in 2024, 2025.
What about Bobby Clinton?
I I actually might have more for him given what he provides. But the Pistons over is the most bet over in the NBA. What do you make of that?
That I think is interesting. And I think what it tells me is that people think that they've got some adults in the room with the Pistons, that they've got a coach and GM combo that kind of makes sense, that they're going to be able to trim this roster and make it competitive again. They've added some pieces, the guys that can flat out shoot, and you go into it assuming that this team is going to stay healthy. You hope that they can stay healthy. And if they can, then they can make some noise.
Yeah. Really interesting about the Pistons.
I had asked you when I was in Vegas, and half the NBA was in Vegas, and I was there because of the Summer League. I was watching.
You were not
game.
there because of the Summer League. You were there. Half the NBA was there because of the Summer League.
That's correct.
Okay.
So I was watching one of the games, and where the Pistons were playing. I didn't go to Thomas and Max. I was watching it on TV and in my room before we headed out. And Dennis Jenkins, whoever the hell Dennis Jenkins is, was just lighting it up and scored a ton of points in this one game. And I sent a text out to you. It said, "Tell me Doug is latched on to Dennis Jenkins." Did he even get a mention?
No.
On that next day,
No,
that
sorry.
Monday?
No, it didn't. He did not. No.
You have gone the other way.
I have gone the other way. My Summer League watching, I fell hook, line, and sinker for previous Summer League Piston games. And now, to me, I take it for what it is. It's a bunch of guys running up and down the floor that I'm going to look for traits that I think need work and traits that I think could be an asset to a player long term. And the odds of Dennis Jenkins impacting the Pistons in the future at the NBA level seem slim. Ron Holland looked better at the end than he did at the beginning. Give him some credit. I think they were playing the Knicks in game 3 or game 4, and I'm like, okay, this guy's starting to look good. I like some of
he played very well towards the end of it.
Yeah, he putting the ball on the floor, getting to the basket, and getting his shot off in a variety of ways impressed me at the end. I can't remember who they were playing. They got smoked. Maybe it's Utah. I think it was Utah. And yet his menu of options when he put the ball on the floor impressed me, and he could finish. So, but ultimately, my takeaway was not quite ready yet. Could be a bit of a redshirt year for Ron Holland. So we shall see. In the meantime, Tigers lose last night 5-4. Bullpen start for the Tigers. They, they threatened a lot to take the lead here. They battled back and tied a game after being down through creative means, by the way, with the pickoff scoring McKinstry from third on the pickoff attempt to first.
So home.
Yep. I think they scored a run on a sacrifice fly. Like they were manufacturing some offense. And so I was, I'm enjoying watching this game when I can get the app to work. And I'm watching this team a lot more lately and thinking about the impact it could have on this season, but really on the offseason. But there's a lot of encouraging trends with what some young players are doing. We will get to that. Plus an MLB insider gives up to the very latest on Tarik Skubal. Hear that at 12:47 here on Carson Anderson on 97.1 The Ticket. Tired of hitting up the same old quarter spots or wing spot with the same flat draft beer that's warm by the time you finish it? Let me let you in on a little secret. Twin Peaks is the best place to watch any game, anytime. For starters, when I say they have the best draft beer in the state, I'm not lying. It takes at least 6 hours to freeze their mugs properly, and they keep enough on hand where each mug is only used once each day. Combine that with a beer system that it pours at a teeth-chattering 29 degrees, and you'll see glaciers rising up out of that mug. Talk about beer crystals. Now pair that with their wings. Have you seen their wings? They are a full meal in and of themselves. And you can have them done 4 different ways. The boneless wings are never frozen, hand-cut and breaded and fried to order. You can't beat it. And they're bone-in, breaded, and smoked wings are bigger than your favorite wing spot. Now toss any of those wings in 12 possible sauces and rubs, and you're in heaven. Some of their favorites include their made in-house bourbon teriyaki or pineapple habanero, plus the beautiful Twin Peaks girls. Their favorite is the spicy Thai chili. Why go anywhere else? And don't book your fantasy football draft parties until you've checked out the special perks for league commissioners at Twin Peaks. Go to twinpeaksrestaurant.com for details. Twin Peaks, eats, drinks, scenic views.